I don't think it would be that painful. I wouldn't, I'd volunteer to have a nail bashed through my hand into a piece of wood.
Moonlit musings for sportsmad vampires, factory shift workers.
Never mind hello, Chuck.
And men with prostate trouble. Morning, Andy.
What are you doing?
Make sure you stay awake for the radio show that never sucks. The Nosferatu Mics on Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
I imagined that I was in one of those situations where somebody is paralysed and only speak with their eyelids.
Yeah.
And I kind of interpreted what he was trying to flutter at me, you know what I mean?
Which presumably was, don't take my tickets, you swine.
No, it was more like, it was very painful.
Did he see you taking the ticket?
He was in a coma, to be honest, so he didn't see much.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very, very, very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to Mr. Parry.
Yeah, and a very good morning to you, Mike. Had a bit of a problem here with the equipment.
A bit of a technical difficulty there.
Just before the show started, my microphone literally dropped from the ceiling.
Did it?
Smashed. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, but luckily, I'm because I'm smarter than the average bear.
Yeah, you've been able to fix it, have you?
Faster than fleet of foot, I managed to get it repaired in the 11 seconds left.
Did you need any help with that?
Before the red light came on. No, I sorted it. It's no problem at all.
You didn't need any help from any of the producers?
Well, a slight adjustment was necessary, but
it's not illegal to give credit to somebody else, you know.
No, I actually got there on my own. Don't worry about that.
Did you?
It's no problem at all.
That's not what I saw.
What?
Why are you incapable of giving credit to anybody else?
No, I'd love to give credit to people if they do something which I think is worth, mentioning.
You know you're not going to get any tea tonight. You carry on like this.
Well, we'll see about that later.
You'll have to go out and make your own.
If somebody offered you a job in Saudi Arabia, would you go?
I would not go.
Neither would I.
No, I've got no interest in working in Saudi Arabia. It is a brutal and ghastly regime.
Well, I am not being judgmental on the brutality or nastiness of its regime.
Yeah, well, I am.
It's a very successive country and it generates
an awful lot of money.
Well, it's a very successful
country if you happen to be a member of the royal family.
Well, it's a very successful country if you work in the oil industry and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Generates... Saudi Arabia caused the first worldwide economic recession.
I thought they'd lost a lot of money over the oil price tanking.
Oh, yeah, well, of course they will have done, yeah, but they've got so much, it doesn't really matter. They caused the first worldwide recession in the 70s because they were earning so much money. Once Saudi Arabia itself decided to reclaim ownership of a lot of oil wells which are owned by overseas territories, i.e. United States mostly, once they said, well, actually, that's our oil, and took it back, when all the world's...
You're talking about the formation of OPEC, aren't you?
Yes, I am, yeah. And when the world's money then started flowing into Saudi Arabia, because everybody in the world was using Saudi Arabian oil to drive their car, it meant that over 50% of all the money in all of the world... was in banks deposited by Saudi Arabians.
Yes.
And therefore, money around the world was drying up. It was literally sitting...
in the 70s in London, it was all about the Saudis coming in and buying property, rather like the Russians and the Chinese are doing now.
The thing is, the IMF had to go to all the Saudi kings and the Saudi rulers and say, look, unless you start spending some of the money that you accumulated, the world's going to come to a standstill.
Yeah.
And they said, why? And they said, because you're taking money out of circulation in the world. They said, well, all we're doing is selling the world our oil and depositing our money in Swiss bank accounts. They said, yes, but you've got to put it back in to world circulation because otherwise, literally you'll become very wealthy. The rest of the world will be very poor.
Yes, indeed.
So since then, that's why, places like Qatar and Dubai and Saudi Arabia now have vast worldwide economic interest to spread the wealth of the world back into the world once it's gone to Saudi Arabia in oil revenues. You
and
see
Mark
what I mean?
Clattenburg, of course, has quit the Premier League to go over there for £1 million a year.
Yes, that's right. Now,
supposedly.
I wouldn't. I much prefer a cold November Saturday at 10 to 5 when the whistle goes and your team's won and the crowd are cheering. And
when was the last time that happened?
And the pub door is beckoning.
In November. Everton didn't have a very good November, I seem to remember.
When the pub door is beckoning, when you are,
when the pub door is beckoning?
Yes, the pub door is beckoning.
There's no beckoning pub doors in Saudi Arabia.
No, that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I prefer a cold November in England, 10 to 5, the whistle's gone, the crowd are cheering, the pub door is beckoning, you're going home to have shepherd's pie, you'll probably watch some junk TV, and then you'll watch Match of the Day, and then you get up on Sunday morning, you walk the dog in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, and you go for Sunday lunch, you have roast roast and beef in a quintessential
Have what?
Middle England pub. Roast beef.
Roast and beef, I thought you said. You've gone back to that German thing. Roast and beef.
No, what was it? What was the
Roast
German?
and beef. Well, don't you have to repeat it.
No,
it's a family show.
What's it called?
No, you see, you're overdoing it now.
What is it called?
Group and sex.
Group and sex. That's
You're
right,
overdoing it
absolutely,
now.
yeah.
You don't have to do that.
Anyway, getting back to why I'd never moved to Saudi Arabia,
Yes.
all those things I've just told you about Britain. Imagine not being able to watch Coronation Street 4 times a week.
I've never watched Coronation Street.
I have.
And you could probably get that in Saudi Arabia. I mean, all of the things that you get here in terms of multimedia, you could probably get, although I dare say their censorship is not quite as good as it should be. But no, I don't really have any interest in going to. I mean, a lot of people used to go there in the 70s to work in the oil business.
Yeah,
and
that's
say,
right, yeah.
You know, it's tax-free money, and you're there for a few years. But, you know, life is short. You know, your life could suddenly end.
And you live
and you
in
don't
these...
know, and you don't know why. So why would you want to be in a place which is entirely oppressive, which does not let you do what you want to do, which would like to tell you exactly how you should behave?
Yeah.
You know, I don't fancy it.
I mean, you live in these compounds, and apparently, you know, the booze is all right when you're in the compound, but if you go out the compound, you can be in trouble. I read a story about a bloke who literally put an empty bottle of wine in the back of his car.
Literally,
put empty bottle of wine in the back of his car.
You know, there's a guy that started a drinking game on Twitter. Every time you say literally, he's going to have a drink.
That's excellent. Good. I'll keep
not
saying it
gonna
more,
last long.
mate. And then you won't last long.
Is that another threat? That'll be the second threat this week. I may have to beat you to a pulp after the show.
No. So he puts this empty bottle in the back of his car. He gets stopped for speeding by the Saudi cops.
Yes.
They find this empty bottle, and next minute, 200 lashes. Yeah. Now, some people like getting lashed, and maybe they
Some people pay good money for it.
Some people pay good money for it, but personally, it's not one of my favourite pastimes.
It's not one of mine either.
And the thing is, I do have an attachment to a little bit of bladderisation, you know, occasionally.
Yes.
And there's no doubt about it. If I went to one of those sort of countries, I would probably find myself in trouble.
Well, you have been there, haven't you? You've been to Qatar.
I've been to Saudi as well.
Have you?
Yeah.
So how did you get on?
I'm just trying to think.
Because when I went to Dubai, it was possible to have a drink in the hotel in which you were staying. It just wasn't possible to go to certain different parts of the place and have it.
In Dubai...
But, I mean, Dubai is now pretty westernised.
Oh, yeah, Dubai wasn't a problem. In Dubai, there's Irish bars and all sorts of things, you know. They're usually in the basement of hotels.
Yeah.
In Qatar... I went there for an England game. It was the first game that Rooney was captain of. We played Brazil in an exhibition game.
Yeah.
And I have to say, there was absolutely no shortage whatsoever of booze in the bar of the hotel we stayed in, which was the very best one. What was it called? It's a worldwide chain of them.
Sheraton?
No, what's the big one in Moscow that's partly owned by Mr. Abramovich? No, not Sheraton, it's the other one.
Ritz-Carlton?
Ritz-Carlton. It was the Ritz-Carlton, that's right, yeah. And I have to say, I sat there with a load of... colleagues from Fleet Street, and it was bladderation until 5 a.m, you know?
Yeah.
So much so that...
But, I mean, that's not the only reason. Your only reason for not going to the Middle East appears to be based entirely on alcohol consumption.
Well, no, it isn't.
Mine is not. I don't wish to live in an oppressive state.
Yes.
Right?
I was asked to go to Qatar
Which doesn't appear to be much of a democracy.
To set up a national radio sports station, right?
Yeah.
And it took me
They
about...
got
yeah, they must have done, yeah.
Was this before or after the failed television station?
It was at the same time.
Really?
They were so impressed with my entrepreneurial efforts in the broadcasting of sport. They said, this is what we've got to do.
You didn't dress up as a sheikh or anything, did
No,
you?
I didn't. No, it's supposed to run alongside the Al Jazeera TV channel.
Al Jazeera?
Jazeera. It's not called that anymore, is it? What's it called?
It's called Bein Sports, yeah.
That's what Richard and Andy work on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Richard Keys and Andy Gray, that is, for those people who don't have everybody on first-name terms.
Exactly. I'm sure it's very successful. And
you do know it's FA Cup weekend, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. But, I mean, the
No,
reason
just because Everton aren't in it, you want to talk about anything but the FA Cup.
No, I think it's fascinating to learn that a man would go off to Saudi Arabia just for the money, really, when at only 41, he'd have another good 4 or 5 years in the Premier League.
You would have thought so. But he says he's fed up.
Gone.
But he says he's fed up, and he's basically trying to stick the knife in, hasn't he, to Mike Riley, to say that he hasn't enough support from him, and he doesn't like all the scrutiny, and he's basically getting offered 10 times as much money, so he's off. I said, I don't blame him. If he wants to do it, let him do it, and maybe he'll have a good time. But how about this from Becky? She says, I went to a conference in Saudi. She couldn't drive. I had to cover my hair, and the hotel was bone dry.
Yes, that's right.
Bladderation excludation. So they don't let women drive cars.
Time I was in
what
Saudi.
sort of a place is it?
The town I was in Saudi, I wasn't there for very long. I was there for one day.
Yeah.
And it's a totally male-dominated society.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
I know. Which in this day and age is ludicrous, frankly.
Yeah, I think it
completely
is.
Completely ridiculous.
Yeah. I wouldn't have gone. I
would
have turned it down. If they've offered me, if I was offered 10 times the money I'm getting now to go to Saudi, as a man of principle, I would not go.
There's not even a Wetherspoons there, is there?
There's not even a Wetherspoons there.
Shocking. Anyway, we've got loads to talk about. We're going to be talking to Sandro Manetti a little bit later on about this lovely story about the female tennis player Ms. Bouchard, who took a bet on the Super Bowl and actually carried it out and said that she would go out on a date with this guy, which I think was terribly nice of her. Yeah. And we're also going to be talking a little bit later on to Jonathan Strickland, who has a show called How Things Work. Oh, yes. So you'll be fascinated by this because he's going to tell you about office sensors, he's going to tell you about passenger drone planes that you've been going on about, and all sorts of flying car projects as well. Plus the Porky Quiz, of course, which is going to be filmed live on Facebook. So I want you all to keep your eyes
you can't slip in the second set of questions?
There are no second set of questions, as everybody knows. And what they do know, though, is from watching you last week, you were clearly doing something with something on your desk that nobody could quite determine.
9.
Your eyes were moving up and down, hands were moving suspiciously. That's what we'll be looking for. I'm predicting 2 out of 10 on the Cuba quiz.
9.
This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
It's a wonderful night, you gotta take it from me. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night, you gotta shake it for me. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night, everybody can see. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down.
Sam says this at the Two Mics. I'm getting very concerned about the frequency of threats issued by Porky towards old MG.
No.
Please, not another Pyongyang situation.
Pyongyang.
See, they're making a few arrests in that situation.
Yeah, they are.
In Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, but presumably the North Koreans have the same attitude that the Russians have when the Russians go around rubbing people out abroad. Yeah. Nothing to do with us.
No,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
Yeah, there must be people acting alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck in the quiz tonight, says Mark.
Thank
Porky,
you.
keep an eye on the producer and old MG's gerrymandering.
Yes, we will. We will, don't worry.
And Becky says, remember it was Britain after World War II that set the blueprint for the Middle East, supporting the rise of the Saudi royal family.
Yes.
Well, indeed, as did the United States of America.
I totally agree.
But it doesn't mean it's a great place to go and live.
No, I totally agree. We put all these false borders in the Middle East, which is ridiculous, because basically it was still an area of Bedouin tribes, who were very transient, and that all came from the early days of Lawrence of Arabia. That's what it was all about.
Yeah, okay.
Indeed.
Here's one from Magoo, who says, it's
Mr.
too
Magoo?
much time. Not Mr. Magoo, just Magoo.
Oh, yeah.
It says, Porky Quiz night, I'm predicting 1 out of 10 from Mike Parry.
Well...
#plank.
OK, I can prove to you, you have little faith, that it is not going to be 1 out of 10. That I can assure you. I know a great deal about this subject. What I fear, of course, is the questions are, on a regular basis, extremely unfair.
Unfair?
They're very, very difficult. Extremely difficult. Yeah. They're complicated.
Would you like to put in a children's easy quiz or something?
Complicated, they're involved.
Like people who didn't used to be able to do a crossword, you could always do that picture crossword on the back of the Evening Standard.
They're often not on the subject, and I don't complain about it because...
You don't complain about it?
No, I'm a tough guy.
All you do is complain.
I take it on the chin.
All you do is complain.
But the reason, that I take it week in, week out is because eventually, of course, the millions of listeners that tune into this show will work out that you are, in fact...
you are, in fact...
Yeah, in fact, a scoundrel for the way that you put the questions together.
I don't know why you keep repeating that. I have nothing to do with the way the questions are put together. All I do is I get the questions. As you will see, when the quiz begins, they will be handed to me by the producer, having been given to him by the independent quizmasters.
You've got the quizmasters in your back pocket.
Then I read them out with the specific answers that I'm given on a piece of paper. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing to do with me.
Sure.
Absolutely outrageous thing that you should say.
Sure.
Now, what did you make of the story about the tennis player who had agreed to a date? Because
sorry, I don't know anything about this story. What is this story?
Well, I was talking about it on when I was talking to the guys on the Sports Bar.
I know, I wasn't listening.
You know who Eugenie Bouchard is, right?
No.
She's one of the top tennis players in the world.
Indeed, yes.
You may sort of recognise her if you see her picture.
Yes, no.
I was telling
Eugenie, wonderful girl.
That she is a wonderful girl because she basically... ended up going on a date with a guy as a result of something that happened on Twitter.
Yes.
Because during the Super Bowl, you might remember, if you didn't watch it, I know you didn't, that the Atlanta Falcons were winning by a huge margin. Everybody thought they were going to win it, and then the New England Patriots came back from the dead, basically, in the final quarter and ended up getting into overtime and winning it.
Yes.
She said at some point during the game, I always knew the Falcons would win the game.
Yeah.
And this guy started tweeting her back saying, no, well, don't be so sure, miracles could happen and all that. And she said, no, absolutely no way. He said, if the New England Patriots win, will you go on a date with me?
Yes.
And he's 20 years old, this guy.
Right.
Very bold.
And how old is she?
She's in her sort of mid-20s, I
Right,
think.
okay, yeah.
But she's a multi-millionairess.
Yes, of course she is, yes.
She's a tennis star.
Yes.
At the top of her game.
Yeah.
And she agreed to do it. And then, of course, when it happened, everyone would have expected her to back out of the deal.
Yes.
But she didn't back out of the deal.
Okay.
So I think it's a lovely story.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Are they going out on a date now?
Well, they've been out on a date.
Oh, they've been out on a date?
They went to a basketball game.
And what happened?
Listen, how can you sit in the same room as me and not listen to a word I say? What is wrong with you?
It's very easy, actually, because you speak so much...
only somebody who is a completely self-involved narcissist who only listens to his own voice would have that reaction.
If it was me, by the way, I'd have felt cheated.
Why?
I'd have said, hang on, what do you mean a basketball game? That's not a date. I want somewhere more intimate.
Well, a basketball... Well, you mean a hotel room?
No, I mean,
I don't think that was what he was after.
No.
Well, he might have been.
No,
but, I mean, she wasn't going to do that.
I mean, a quiet corner of a restaurant.
Well, they may have done that as well. We're going to find out when we talk to Sandro Manetti. But the reason that we know they went to a basketball game together is because it was all filmed, because basketball is massive in America.
I don't regard that as a date, do you?
Well, why wouldn't you would take a woman to a football match? That's a date.
Well, I would, but not on a first date. I mean, that's something you do when you actually know somebody quite well. But
really?
I mean, if I was trying to make my way with a young lady, or even a middle-aged lady these days...
Middle-aged?
Yeah, the last thing
What
I'd
sort of
do...
age would you mean?
Middle-aged?
Yeah. What sort of age?
Oh, up to 40.
Up to 40?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I'd do is say, look, I've had my eye on you for a while. I want to move things on a bit, What about coming...
I've had my eye on you for a while.
Yes.
I want to move things on a bit.
That's right, yeah.
Charming.
What about you joining me down at Southampton to watch Southampton play Everton on Saturday? How about
and
that?
obviously we'd have to stay over.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, and we can have a nice, sort of intimate meal in the...
intimate meal?
In the corporate lounge before... Well, that's what I'm saying.
An intimate meal in a corporate lounge?
This is what I'm mocking.
Well, it's not intimate,
That's not a date. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's not a date.
Yeah, but this was not
really... On the first date, you'd have said to the young lady, would you like to come up to town with me, i.e. London, and we'll go to the Wolseley for dinner or something like that,
The Wolseley?
Yeah, the Wolseley.
Well, that's not very intimate. It's a massively noisy and busy restaurant.
Yeah, but I mean...
There are no quiet corners in there.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's the thing is, it's wood and trees, isn't it,
What?
Can't see the wood for the trees in the Wolseley, you see what I mean?
What are you saying, that nobody can see what you're up to?
Well,
You're a disgraceful creature, aren't you?
No.
I mean, all you see is the pleasures of the flesh.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about...
You have no interest in women
at all.
at all.
A meeting of minds.
Really?
Yes.
What, yours and somebody else's?
No. Anyway, I don't know why you're talking about this drivel. What we should be talking about are the stories of the day. And let's face it, there's only a few of them. Clattenburg goes to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I've already covered that. Wenger ready to walk away. Now, this is the one that's been going on all day. I've even seen complaints on Twitter today that is there nothing else going on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, there isn't, is there?
Not really.
John Cross, who knows Wenger very well, who's written a book about him, said put the story out sort of mid-afternoon.
Yes.
That the belief is that he will leave at the end of the season.
Yes, that's right, yeah. So, the
but, I mean, the trouble is, by the time he
Yeah.
does leave, nobody will be very surprised or indeed interested. The only interesting thing is who's going to come in next.
Yes,
and
that's
the
right.
4 names that I've seen are all from what you would regard as the continent.
Yes, no, I totally agree. According to that story you've just been talking about, Wenger will make a clean break and leave. So I think what they're saying is he's not going to move upstairs, Sir Alex Ferguson style or anything like that. He's off.
Which is mad, because surely that's exactly what he should do.
No,
he's such a big part of the club that they shouldn't get rid of him.
I've told you the story before about Liverpool when Bill Shankly stepped down and expected to be sort of, regarded as a lifelong ambassador of the club. And then they wouldn't let him back into the ground.
Yeah, but that's a very different time.
Wouldn't let him into the training ground.
Well, yeah, but that's a very different time. Bill Shankly, as brilliant as he was, did not build the sort of commercial edifice that is now Liverpool.
Well, he was responsible for the start of Liverpool's glory years.
Of course he was, yeah. But what I'm saying is the business of football then was nothing like what it is now. And so what Arsene Wenger has done for Arsenal should surely be rewarded in a far more, grateful way by the board.
I think it's
because of everything that he's done.
I appreciate exactly you making the difference between the generations. However, isn't the actual problem the same in both cases, and that is the shadow of the man who was the predecessor looming over the new man who's come in to
but the difference between
take the baton on.
But the difference between the shadow of Sir Alex Ferguson, on the field, and the shadow of Arsene Wenger on the field by the time he leaves is completely different. Yeah. Because the new guy comes in with sort of all the hopes held high of the Arsenal fans that they will win the Premier League. Which Arsene Wenger hasn't done in a very long time.
That's right.
Whereas with Sir Alex Ferguson, he was brilliant.
Well, he left as the manager of the
everything.
The champions.
So therefore his shadow was cast a very, very long way.
Could well.
Do you know what I mean?
Could well be. You might have a point there for once.
And we also got to talk about the FA Cup coming up as well.
Well, the FA Cup's exciting because when you look at it, there's 8 ties and it's 8 Premier League teams against 8 teams from divisions below them.
That's right.
Now, the odds are that with 8 games, they won't all go to plan. So it looks like there's going to be a giant killing.
There has to be one or two.
Where will the giant killing happen? Now, for instance, Lincoln City roaring away in the National League, okay? Literally roaring away there,
Literally.
And, yes, that's right. And they're going to Burnley. Burnley? Hey, lad, Burnley. Get yourself a stotty cake.
Yeah.
And what could happen there is that Burnley are very, very confident at home, won 9 of the games at home this season, and lost, I think, only 3 in total, including one in the
well, we might do some predictions on that coming up in a little while.
Might do. Lincoln could fancy themselves there because, what have they got to lose? What have they got to lose?
Well, exactly. The other big story, of course, is Donald Trump's press conference. I don't know if you saw it.
I saw it. It's brilliant, yeah.
And
called
he's
everybody in the world a liar.
Yeah, he's called everybody a liar, but he's also done that thing that every politician has done. So he's learning on the job.
Yes.
I inherited a mess.
Yes, that's
so
right.
everything's a mess. Everybody that comes in.
No, not just a mess. A mess at home.
Yeah.
A mess abroad.
That's right.
A mess overseas.
Yeah.
It is a mess.
It is a mess. This is what they all do, right?
Brilliant,
I mean, every single guy that's ever come in to be the Prime Minister has always
mess.
said, look at the mess the economy's in. We're going to take at least 4 years to fix this.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we'll have to have another election. And the reason it will be not as good then will be because we haven't been able to fix the mess.
They got their press conference wrong, but this is over in America, because they did the usual thing which you have to take care of, and that is, right, I'll take questions from the floor.
Yeah.
But they don't have somebody out on the floor with a microphone. So you couldn't hear the question.
Yeah.
You could only hear the answer, which gave Trump even more strength, because he was actually replying to not to the question, but what he wanted to say.
Well, he didn't actually say anything.
No, he didn't. No.
I mean, that's the genius of the guy, right? I mean, people say that he's odious, that he is a dictator, that he's all sorts of things. I mean, what he is a salesman.
Yes.
He's now selling the idea of Trump as president.
Yeah.
Right? But he's not actually telling you what he's going to do.
I saw
We're going to do another executive order next week. Well, great. But the ones he's done so far haven't actually worked.
No, he said he's done more than any other president in history in the first sort of 30 days he's been in power or something. But, no, I also saw for the first time today in a very reputable newspaper the point that I've been trying to make now for the last 3 months, and that is, actually, isn't it quite a good idea for the President of the United States to be a chum of the man who's leading Russia? I think it's a very good idea.
When you say chum, I think that there are obviously conflicts of interest.
Well, there's conflicts of interest, but I'd rather have the President of the United States and the man who heads up Russia, Vladimir Putin, on, having some sort of relationship based on mutual respect,
well, it's certainly better for them to be talking.
Rather than having a Cold War.
Well, it's certainly better than talking, yes.
If you're not talking and it's a Cold War situation, the whole world is stressed out. But if Trump can actually say, look, the guy had to sack Riley.
Flynn.
Who's
Riley?
Riley's some guy in between, isn't
Riley, Ace of Spies.
Riley, Ace of Spies, that's right. So the guy had to sack Flynn. I mean, basically, he didn't actually do anything wrong. He just didn't follow diplomatic protocol, that was all.
Well, he didn't follow diplomatic protocol, but he did also tell untruths to certain people. I mean, according to the FBI, he said that he didn't talk to the Russian ambassador about anything other than this, that and the other.
And unfortunately, they passed that on to the Veep, the Vice President.
Well, but also, unfortunately, they apparently have a transcript of what was said.
Exactly,
which includes the things that he said. And also, the idea is that he didn't do that on his own. He didn't just suddenly decide to go up and talk to the Russian ambassador.
No.
But he wasn't supposed to do it.
But he didn't think it was important. That's the point. They don't know too much about the diplomatic world, these guys, because they haven't been politicians before.
But there's also a law against private individuals talking to diplomats about national security.
All he was trying to say was, look, I think we should make things better, not worse.
So you've seen the transcript then, haven't you?
No, but most people would say that's a good thing.
Really?
I think all these...
I'm not surprised you're a Trump supporter, to be honest.
I didn't say I was a Trump supporter.
Yeah, but you obviously are.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not.
No,
in many ways, I'm not a Trump supporter.
So you're against Trump?
I'm not against Trump. I'm not a Trump supporter.
Well, which one are you?
I'm a man with a single...
Well, the splinters are going up all the way up your arse, aren't they? Because you keep telling me I'm a
man with a single-minded view of East-West diplomatic relations, of which I know a hell of a lot.
But you can't.
I'm the only man you'll ever find.
Yeah. So you sound just like him.
Hang on. I'm the only man you'll ever find.
I'm the greatest president that there's ever been.
Who has dined with senior politicians in Washington one week and senior politicians in Moscow inside the Kremlin the next, okay?
What were their names?
Just remember that.
What were their names?
I can't reveal that.
You don't remember, do you?
I can't reveal that.
No, you used to hang about at the British Embassy passing secrets over whenever they asked you for a free glass of Pinot Grigio.
What are you talking about?
And then when you went to Moscow, you had to be carried out of the arena at the end of the Champions League game. I don't think you're remembering it quite the way it happened.
No.
Anyway, we'll be talking some more about that. Diplomatic relations notwithstanding.
Indeed.
This is Talk Sport. Talk Sport, we are the two mics. We've got loads going on. Coming up, we are going to be talking, as I said, to Sandro Monetti over in Hollywood. We've got to talk some more about Cuba later on in the Porky Quiz. But let's talk a little bit about the FA Cup.
Yes.
Because it is FA Cup weekend, 5th round, going into the last 8, I suppose, after this, right?
Yeah.
And we've got 6 of the 8 games live,
yes,
which is very exciting.
Yes.
Culminating with Arsenal going down to Sutton,
I know.
your neck of the woods, of
Monday
course,
night.
on Monday night.
Yeah.
You'll be able to go to that.
Well, I'm not sure whether I will or not. I mean, of course, I'm an adopted Sutton fan. I've had a lot of requests from Sutton to, rattle a can for them, so to speak, and I'm very happy to get involved.
Really?
And in fact, I think on our show on Saturday
on the warm-up, yes.
I think fans representatives coming on to show his appreciation for all my support. Yeah.
Well, what exactly have you been doing for Sutton?
Bigging them up, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, what can you do to raise the profile of a team whose profile is now about as high as it's ever been?
Well, I toured the town, and, told people.
The town? Well, you always tour the town.
No, I don't.
That's where you live.
No, I don't, actually, but I go there occasionally. And, I made my presence felt.
Well, you spend a lot of time in Sutton, let's put it that way.
Well, a lot of my business activities happen to be there, actually.
Really?
So that's one of the reasons why I do, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, property and that sort of stuff.
Right.
But
now, you did say that it's basically a Premier League side against another side from outside of the Premier League in every single
tie.
So, I mean, what would be the odds, I wonder, for the Premier League to be a completely Premier League full quarter-finals?
A whitewash?
Yeah.
Well, it would be 1-8, wouldn't it?
No, I don't think so.
8-1 then?
Well, I don't think it would be.
Why not? There's 8 ties.
Yeah, there's 8 ties, but I mean, it's not as simple as 8-1, is it?
Must
presumably.
be.
Why?
Because only one game could go awry and ruin your bet at 8-1.
Well, no, I realise that, but what I'm saying is that presumably all of the Premier League teams are less than evens to win, aren't they? Because they're Premier League teams.
Yes, that's right.
So if you were to take less than evens and multiply it by 8, you wouldn't get 8-1. Would you? Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not asking you to give me the odds.
Maybe.
It's a sort of a rhetorical question.
Yeah,
really.
maybe you're right. Yes.
But if you looked at Burnley, Lincoln, Huddersfield, Manchester City, Middlesbrough, Oxford, Millwall, Leicester, Wolverhampton, Chelsea, Fulham, Spurs, Blackburn, Manchester United, Sutton, Arsenal. Which of those are going to be the giant killers? That's what I'm asking you.
Well, do you see a giant killer leaping off the page and smacking you in the face?
What?
Do you see a giant killer leaping off the page?
I do, Millwall.
And smacking you in the face?
Millwall, my team Millwall that I've supported all the way through the FA Cup.
Who are playing?
They're playing Leicester.
Yes, Leicester, that's right.
And don't forget, my treble prediction has been that Leicester will be beaten by Millwall, they'll be beaten by Sevilla, knocked out of the Champions League, and they'll get relegated.
I think Leicester will emphatically dispatch Millwall because I think that, they will react to the sort of criticism that has been coming their way, and I think they'll have a go back and say, no, we're not going to be humbled by a team like Millwall. We are the champions of the Premier League. That's what I think will happen.
I mean, I don't think there's many people at Leicester walking around saying we are the champions of the Premier League anymore. Don't sing. But I mean, I'm sure that my friends at Millwall will be very happy that you have now predicted they will lose.
Well,
the
will
Porky
they?
Jinx will be in full effect.
Will they? I'm not sure
the Porky Jinx will be in full effect.
They will not. I quite like it because the romance of the FA Cup obviously is all about giant killings, and that means there's 8 opportunities there for it to happen.
Yeah.
How the draw worked out that every Premier League team got a team below them, I don't know, but I bet you that's never happened before.
I don't think it has.
This stage of the Cup, the 5th round.
Now, Dickie has tweeted in to say that the odds on all Premier League teams to win this weekend is about 24-1.
24-1. That's great. Thanks very much indeed.
So nothing like 8-1 at all.
8-1 multiplied by 3, you've got 24-1. That's fairly obvious, isn't it?
What?
Fairly obvious.
Say that again.
I just said it.
Say it again. You said it very quickly. I wasn't.
8 to 1 multiplied by 3, 24 to 1. That's nearly 25 to 1. That's obvious, isn't it?
Why is it multiplied by 3?
Because it's 3 times as unlikely for all teams to win. That's why.
Oh, so that happens all the time, does it?
Well, it doesn't happen all the time, but if you know anything about the way these odds work, I would say that is about right.
Well, I assume you don't know anything about how it works because you said it would be 8 to 1.
I do. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
How about this from Cristiano? He says, I'm predicting 0 out of 10 for Porky in the quiz.
How are you?
And Revenger says, the questions are only hard if you don't know the answers. No question is unfair.
No.
Which is very true.
All questions are unfair if they are against the spirit of the competition. The spirit of the competition is... I mean, look, I could have said, Cuba post-Second World War. I could have said Cuba in the Castro era. I didn't. I said Cuba. Because I'm saying I will do the history of Cuba. It's not a problem.
Okay.
You know, I open it up
very happy for you.
In the spirit of the thing. I say, questions, all comers. You
say you'll take questions on anything, and then when you don't get them right, you complain that they're the wrong questions.
No, but you then deliberately instruct, whoever writes these questions to make them impossibly
I give them
hard.
the subject. If you'd said the history of Cuba, I would have said the history of Cuba. You said Cuba, so that's what they've been working on.
And by making them impossibly hard, I'm afraid that what you do is you detract from the attractiveness of the competition.
Do you think?
Because it becomes lopsided and one-sided.
I think people rather enjoy it when you get them wrong.
Graham
says this: the Porky Quiz live again. We are spoiled. I'll be watching it here in Burma.
Yeah.
Gripped. Here's to a high score, Corky. Go for it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
In Burma, eh? What about that?
Burma, I like Burma.
I thought Burma was called Myanmar now.
Is it?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, no, I don't think I do like Burma, actually. I've never been there, so...
you don't think you like Burma?
No, I don't think I like Burma.
You're not sure?
Well, it hasn't got a very good political history, has it? That's the thing. Now, let me tell you this. Do you know what the new secret food is that everybody's going to be guzzling now in great quantities?
No, but I've got a feeling you're going to tell me.
Pork scratchings.
Pork scratchings?
Yeah, honest to God, yeah.
Well, isn't that quite a good coincidence?
Yeah, very good coincidence. I'm very pleased.
Aren't you hooking yourself up with a commercial venture with regard to pork scratchings?
I am launching the Porky Parry pork scratchings. Yeah, that's right. The Porky Parry pork scratchings.
That guy that's in the drinking game is now on the floor.
That's right. Yeah, he's bladerated. Yeah, the Porky Parry pork scratchings product. Is being launched at Harry's Bar. Yeah, top establishment.
I've seen a picture of it actually.
That's right.
It looks great.
Wigan Town Centre. On Friday, August the...
Friday.
Oh, no, sorry. It's
Friday,
March.
August the what?
No, it's not August, it's March. Friday, March the 10th, isn't it?
I don't know what it is.
Is it 10th?
I don't know. It's your thing.
Yeah, I know. It's my pork scratchings.
Yeah. I mean, in a way,
product.
though, this is probably quite good because you might be done for undue prominence of a product if you were getting any of it right. Since you're getting it all wrong.
Yeah, you're all wrong.
Actually, it's of no consequence.
But no, the point is, it's. Let me read this to you. It says here, move aside Hawaiian poke. What's Hawaiian poke?
Hawaiian poke?
Yeah, poke.
No idea.
Poke with that sort of arrow on the top of the E.
Sounds like that Australian animal that was being beaten around the other day.
Anyway, it says move aside Hawaiian poke, kombucha. Do you know what kombucha is?
No idea.
And turmeric, Turmeric.
Turmeric, yeah. That's a turmeric shots.
Yeah, that's what it says.
I use turmeric with curry. You make curry with it.
Okay, it says move aside Hawaiian poke, kombucha, and turmeric shots. The must-have health food of 2017 is a bag of pork scratchings. The crack cocaine of bar snacks. That's good, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a great selling point.
Neither am I. Eaten only by men in pubs with dogs on a string has come of age as a superfood.
Dogs on a string?
Yeah. It used to be associated with sort of down market, sawdust on the floor type boozers, Yeah,
see, I wouldn't say that. I mean, the first time I came across pork scratchings was in the West Country.
Right.
When I went to university, because I'd never seen them in London.
Okay.
But every pub in the West Country had them.
Anyway, it says Tom Kerridge is to blame. The chef's enormously popular dopamine diet cookbook.
Dopamine?
Yeah, got that. Dopamine diet cookbook. The week's best-selling book, by the way, top of the charts.
Oh, yeah.
Despite having been published more than a month ago, scatters pork scratchings throughout recipes with the profusion with which Yotam Ottolenghi sprinkles za'atar.
He's a brilliant chef, actually.
Is he? Yotam Ottolenghi, what does he cook?
Well, he's from the Middle East, so he does a lot of sort of Middle Eastern-type cuisine.
Yeah, garbage.
Very good. What do you mean, garbage?
Garbage.
No, it's lovely. A lot of couscous.
Oh, can't stand Middle Eastern cuisine.
Why not? When have you ever had it?
Oh, went to Lebanon once.
You don't like falafel?
Oh, I hate falafel.
Why? Falafel's lovely.
Isn't it made of all those horrible beans? What are they called? Chickpeas. Oh,
you don't like chickpeas?
Oh, I can't stand it.
You never have chana masala?
It's like eating wallpaper paste.
You never have chana masala in a curry house?
No. What I did take to, and I lived on them, was olive leaves. Not olives, but olive leaves.
Yeah, vine leaves, you mean?
Vine leaves, that's right, vine leaves. wrapped around
wrapped around your throat.
No, wrapped around quite nice bits of lamb. Minced lamb.
Minced lamb?
I ate a lot of those. They were great.
Greek, that.
Well, it was in Lebanon. I got them.
Was
yeah. I'm
going
to Greece soon.
Were you in a Greek restaurant?
No, I was in a... No, I wasn't. I was in a...
They're called stuffed vine leaves, you plank.
Stuffed vine leaves. And I was in a smashed-up restaurant somewhere near the Beckar Valley.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah.
Now, listen.
Somebody just shelled it, perhaps.
Yeah, probably.
Perhaps they were very happy.
Maybe it was Gaddafi looking for you again.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Firing up a G-Funk, sipping on juice and gin. Just me and a friend. Feeling kind of groovy, working on a movie. Yeah, right.
But we did nothing. Absolutely buckets that day. And I'll say, what the hell am I doing drinking in LA at 26?
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. It may be FA Cup weekend, but there's an awful lot going on in other parts of the world as well, and we're going to find out some of that right here with Sandro Bonetti, our man, with his finger on the pulse over in Hollywood. Sandro, very good morning to you.
My finger is on the pulse, throbbing away and ready to point you in the right direction.
This is a family show, I should remind you at this stage, so don't get too graphic about whatever it is that you're doing. However, it's not very often we get a heartwarming, charming story of celebrity and the ordinary man in the street. But this Eugenie Bouchard story has really quite sort of interested me.
Yes, if anyone hasn't heard it, tennis ace Eugenie Bouchard was watching the Super Bowl when she got a tweet at half-time. And at that time, you remember the New England Patriots were 28-3 down to her team, Atlanta. And a student called John Gurka, who has always fancied Eugenie Bouchard, said, will you go out with me if the Patriots win? Well, of course, they were 28-3 down. There was no chance of a comeback. She said, sure. And then, as we know, miracle comeback of all time, Tom Brady leads the Patriots to victory. She's as good as her word. They went out on a date. They really hit it off. And she says she might go out with him again.
Yeah.
Where did they go on this date, though,
I think they went to Madison Square Garden, didn't they?
They did. They went to the basketball game in New York. And the pictures looked great. They went on the court at halftime. They were giving out T-shirts to the crowd. She said, "I'm just glad that he's normal." She had no idea what he was going to look like because his profile pic on social media is Tiger Woods. She was a bit worried that Tiger Woods might show up, you know.
Understandably, right?
I don't understand how this guy managed to access her personally. I mean, did he DM her or something?
He sent her a tweet.
Right.
That's how Twitter works.
Yeah, he sent out a tweet, you mean?
He sent a tweet that was in answer to one of her tweets.
Right.
So she saw the tweet, because if you mention somebody's Twitter account, unless they've blocked you, they'll see it.
All right, but Sandra, you have to agree with me. It's not a very intimate date, is it, when you share it with thousands of other people live and millions worldwide? If it was me and she said, yeah, I will, I'd say, right, well, to hold true to your word, you and I are going to have a date in an intimate restaurant in, Midtown Manhattan or LA or somewhere like that.
Well, that's your opinion, but I'm so inspired by this. I'm already tweeting Maria Sharapova and asking if she wants to go and watch my team Ipswich Town with me anytime.
Bring your own Meldonium if you go and do that.
Yeah. I think the chances of that range between slim and no, and slim just left town.
Well, you say that, but I mean, this guy is...
Well, I am pretty hard to get. I would understand how you would think that.
Yeah. Also, by the way, Sandra, the last time you were on, we had a couple of tweets from some people who've been listening to you elsewhere who said that you've been trying to put yourself up as the next Doctor Who.
That's right. I am ready for the call. I'm ready to travel through time and space. I am a huge fan of Doctor Who, and but I hear that Tilda Swinton has the inside track on the role.
Yeah, so, it's about time they gave it to a woman, right?
I might lose out because of my sex. They're looking for a female doctor.
Yeah. Well, about time too, right? But Porky, unfortunately, has got some very old-fashioned views about dating, and he doesn't think that this is I think this is a charming story. In fact, probably the most charming celebrity story I think I've ever seen.
I think it's great publicity for Eugenie Bouchard.
She doesn't need it.
And I think the guy himself will end up as another discarded toffee paper wrapping when she's decided this particular little sparkling publicity event is run its course.
He's so cynical, sometimes.
No.
Hang on. In the week of Valentine's Day, is there no romance at all in your heart?
There isn't. No, there's none.
There's plenty of romance in my heart, but you've got to be practical towards these things. You let your mind run away with you, Sandro, and your defences drop. That's all I'm saying.
This is a guy who once put an advert.
Coming to my wedding with Maria Sharapova.
Yeah, this is a guy who once put in a classified advert in the Times, right? Which was to a woman he happened to be with at the time. He was married. Yeah. In which he said, "Roses are red, violets are blue. I've just bought some great new lingerie for you."
Well, I mean,
this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, but hang on. That was in a completely different environment and not something I wish to share with our millions of listeners because they'll get the wrong impression about me. I'll tell you what I do want to talk to you about, Sandro. This amazing guy who invented the Tesla car, this guy called Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yeah. Now, he's put forward this theory that everybody will get a universal wage eventually because of artificial intelligence producing robots. That theory, has been put forward in Western economies because they say that not just people who are unemployed should get state handouts, to help them get through the week and the day. They say everybody should get it. And that basically everybody should become dependent on the state because so many people in the world now accumulate vast fortunes.
I was there in the room in Dubai just a couple of days ago attending the World Government Summit where Elon Musk was addressing government leaders from 139 countries and said that, yes, there's been lots of talk of this, but it's going to become an economic reality in 12 to 20 years. Driverless cars are just the start. They're going to put out of work all the bus drivers, all the taxi drivers, all the Uber drivers. 12 to 15% of the workforce rely on driving. They're all going to be thrown out of work within 20 years at the latest.
Yeah.
And then artificial intelligence is going to replace so many other jobs. There'll be no jobs available. Even the two mics will be replaced by the two androids. And so
you can't get an artificial brain like mine.
Thankfully.
No, you can't. No.
If you pay the right money.
No, well,
interestingly enough, you raise a point there, which actually is probably worth talking about, because the one thing that you won't be able to get androids to do is what you might regard as the creative arts, without wishing to sound as if I've disappeared up my own arts channel.
Yeah,
I'm talking about filmmakers, musicians,
painters.
We've already seen that computers trying to create music.
No, you're wrong.
They can do it. No, I'm not entirely wrong. I'm entirely right, because you can't. I mean, I couldn't replicate this conversation with you between two robots.
Let's look at video games. 40 years ago, there was that ping-ping tennis. It was like two rectangles and a ball.
It was brilliant.
Now there are all these photorealistic video games, which are so incredible.
Yeah, but they're not, though. My kids play them, and they have
virtual reality.
No, my kids play them, right? And
you won't be able to know.
My kids play them, and I see them every weekend, right? And they've got these people talking to each other, but they are animated cartoons. They're not, it doesn't look real.
But technology will advance that you soon won't be able to tell the difference between the real world and the video game world. And so it's going to happen in movies, it's going to happen in TV shows as well. And so we're all going to be unemployed. So
I think you've been living in LA too long, to be honest. Now, what were you doing at the World Summit in Dubai? World Government Summit in Dubai.
Question.
Anyway, who asked you to go there?
I was a guest of the Dubai government.
Were you?
Manchester City.
Oh, big freebie.
Yes, I'd like to thank them for their hospitality. It was a lovely freebie.
Yeah.
Wonderful place.
Yeah.
Did
Donald Trump turn up? I didn't notice that he was there.
No, he didn't. It's interesting. The world governments were getting together to decide how to make the world a better place. On the agenda were not just universal income, but also happiness, environment. It's a big annual event. Last year, Barack Obama was the keynote speaker. This year, the Trump administration sent absolutely nobody. Mm-hmm. I was the closest thing to an American that was at this event.
Really? God, that's bad news for America.
America first.
Brilliant. Now, let's just go back to the world of La La Land for a moment, because the Oscars are coming up quite soon, aren't they? And presumably La La Land's going to sweep the board, right?
It is. Nothing can stop it, unless Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone commit a double murder in the next week. I think it's pretty inevitable that La La Land has got it in the bag. It's already, tied for the most nominations of all time with 14, with Titanic and All About Eve. It's a question of how many it's going to win. It can't win all 14 because it has 2 nominations in the same category for Best Song. But it's going to be a procession for La La Land. It's a week on Sunday when the Oscars takes place. Same day as the League Cup final. So a double dose of entertainment for us there.
Splendid stuff.
Yeah.
And what about Carlos Santana? He's been upsetting Beyonce, hasn't he?
Yes.
Well, he has. I mean, talking of award shows, it was just the Grammys, and we saw that Adele beat Beyonce in the major categories, and even Adele admitted Beyonce should have won a couple that she won, and Carlos Santana agreed. But unfortunately, he did it in rather an unfortunate way because while praising Adele in a newspaper interview, he managed to really completely slag off Beyonce, saying that she's not a singer. Her music is more appropriate for modelling dresses or playing on the catwalk rather than playing on the radio. Now, Carlos Santana has been around so long, but he still hasn't learned the number one lesson in show business. You never diss Beyonce because her fans, the Bayhive, can really pour out their hate on social media, and that's what they've done. Carlos Santana, absolutely a victim of digital assassination on social media.
Is this the same Carlos Santana that even when I was a teenager, I'd buy his LPs and they were all about bashing drums and stringing guitars and all that kind of stuff?
What?
That's the fella.
The same guy, yeah. I mean, his group was called...
Party.
His group was called Santana, wasn't it?
Santana, yeah.
Remarkably, after his name.
Samba Party was a great album.
Music.
Yeah, I mean, blimey, that's going back 40 years. This guy was I didn't even know he was still alive. Just one last question about your Dubai mission, Sandro. We were having a discussion earlier about not wanting to work in the Middle East because parts of it are very dry, as in alcohol. Was there plenty of the bladderation fluid available?
Well, I know there's supposed to be no booze there, but amazingly enough, if you go to the Burj Al Arab, which is the world's only 7-star hotel, and is in Dubai, the alcohol seems to be flowing quite freely there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Right, I'm on my way.
There's always been plenty of booze in Dubai.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. Anyway, thanks very much indeed. Sandro Benetti, they're reporting into us from Hollywood and Dubai on all sorts of very, very important matters.
Indeed.
Coming up in the next hour, we're going to be talking about the future more. This is Talk Sport. Now, I've got some good tweets here. We've got to do a few tweets.
Okay, yeah.
Remiss.
Yeah, I agree.
Here's one from Paul in Torquay. He says, I have an artificial brain just like Porky's right in front of me. It's called a doorknob.
Oh, yeah?
That's not very funny.
No, that's not funny and very inappropriate.
And Mervyn says, Porky sounded worried when he said the 2 androids went quiet and then can't an artificial brain like mine.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah.
Graham here says, Porky Quiz live again. We are spoiled. I'll be watching here in Burma.
I read that out already.
Oh, the grift one. Here's to a high score again.
Oh, do you remember I asked you if you'd ever been to Burma?
Oh, right, OK.
And
that was
said,
the one.
Isn't it called Myanmar?
I thought we'd suddenly acquired a new fan club in Burma, and I thought there's another one here from Burma.
Well, no, there's more than one from Burma.
Yeah, exactly.
That was what I said. Is it, is it not called Myanmar these days?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now then, can you play a bit of the song by the Gibson Brothers called Cuba?
Yeah.
It's perfect with the theme of the quiz tonight. Do you know what, Donald? I'm so grateful to you because the one last bit of research I was going to do was find out who sung that song, Cuba.
Really?
Yeah, I know now it's the Gibson Brothers.
Well, you see, this is the danger.
See, now you'll be trying to alter the questions now, won't you?
I haven't got the questions.
Yes, you will.
I haven't got them.
You'll be on the phone in the next break to the so-called quizmasters.
They don't have a phone.
Take out the question about Gibson Brothers and Cuba.
Well, I mean, if it was my quiz on Cuba, right?
Yeah.
That is such an obvious question to set.
Yeah, but you know
to
your
be
question
honest,
would be...
I wouldn't put it in there.
Your question would be...
What's the name of the lead guitarist?
No, what's the name of the third child of the lead guitarist of the band Cuba, of the band Gibson Brothers who made Cuba?
Cuba.
Yeah, that's what you'd do.
Well, listen, I have no influence over the independent quizmasters. If that question comes up, it's so far from the time now that you'll have forgotten anyway.
Do you know what your question would be? Your question would be, Cuba, the hit record, was made by the Gibson Brothers. In what street in Edinburgh did the lead guitarist grow up in? That would be your question.
I don't make the questions.
Yeah, you do. Don't give me
Why
all
don't you just give me 10 questions you'd like me to ask you about Cuba? Would that be easier for you?
Yeah, I'm not taking all that nonsense. Now, listen, I want to talk to you about Yoko Ono.
Do you?
Yes. Now, Yoko...
Doesn't that count as the man who should not be named the other half?
No, because, it's the other half, but the man we're not naming.
Yeah.
Now... Yoko Ono, I think, has been maligned dreadfully.
Oh, yeah?
You know, since the death of the man we don't name, John Lennon, of course.
Well,
you know.
don't name him then.
And I think she's had to fight prejudice all her life,
Really?
because she's
well, for people like you,
Japanese.
Beatles fans, who didn't like the fact that she was breaking them up.
I never, ever said that. I said the opposite. I said, actually, because of Yoko Ono, they went on a lot longer, because he wanted to pull out many, many times.
Really?
But she said, no, stick with it. It's the Beatles. They're a great phenomenon.
I see.
Seriously. Anyway... She's been ridiculed.
They had a couple of kids as well.
Sorry?
They had a couple of kids as well.
They had one, actually.
Only one?
John Lennon...
Just Julian?
No.
Sean?
No, that's Sean. John Lennon had Julian with his first wife, who was Scylla. No, her name was Twist of Lennon. Twist of Lennon.
Twist of Lennon?
Yeah, that was the book she wrote. And
Cynthia, wasn't it?
Cynthia Twist. That's absolutely right. Yeah, that's her name. Cynthia Twist. They had one child, who's now Julian Lennon, who, by the way, you won't believe it, is 50. Can you believe that? John Lennon's son 50. And the other one is Sean, who was their child, born in and raised in the Dakota in New York. But anyway, look. So Yoko Ono has been ridiculed after sending out a tweet saying, who will win the World Cup?
Yeah.
Her answer to her own question...
She sent a tweet out, who will win the World Cup?
Yes.
Why?
Because this was apocryphal. She was saying, who will win the World Cup? Then she answered her own question. She said, a child who believes in a peaceful world.
Oh, yeah.
So that's...
Oh, she didn't mean the World Cup.
Well, yes, she did.
No, she meant a different World Cup,
No, what she meant was, in any big event, you know, anything in the World Cup, or, you know, the next papal conference or something, the winner should be...
The next papal conference?
The next papal conference.
Who's going to win that, then?
I was going to say, a child who believes in the peaceful world. Now, she's 83, and obviously it was her contribution in an artistic way to what goes on in the world. So... The problem is...
But don't you think she doesn't mean the Football World Cup? She must mean a World Cup of a sort of a higher calling.
I don't think so, because...
No, I think she does.
Well, why then did she put a capital W on the word world, and a capital C on the world...
Did she put hashtag on it as well?
No.
Well, I guess she was just thinking that would get more attention, but she clearly doesn't mean who's going to win the Football World Cup, a boy that believes in peace. So
well,
that's just mad.
I think you've lost the point. What she's saying is the World Cup is obviously a very popular event, okay?
Yeah.
So what she's saying is who will win the World Cup, i.e. the World Cup in football, and then her answer is a child who believes in a peaceful world. It's all about world peace again.
It's all about peace. It's not about football.
No, of course it's not. But she's using a huge football event to illustrate everything in the end should lead to peace.
How do you know it's not the Rugby World Cup she's talking about?
Because it's not. I
How
can
do you
tell you
know?
that for sure. Because you're asking us stupid questions. If you go to somebody and say the World Cup...
She's a performance artist, right?
Yeah.
So most of what she says...
Rugby only involves 7 nations.
Has a double
the World
meaning.
Cup involves 156.
Well, there's more than 7 nations in the Rugby World Cup.
I don't know why you're picking at this so
because
minutely.
Because I think you're misunderstanding it.
No, I'm not misunderstanding. If you just shut up and let me get
Why
on
do you
with it.
get so frustrated? You know, I'm not allowed to get frustrated.
Because you just go on and on and on.
Because I'm trying to make a point.
Oh, forget it. Come on, but talk about something else.
Okay, then.
Right.
Why are you so irritable?
I'm irritable because I'm trying to tell you about this huge issue.
You're very belligerent. You've been belligerent all week.
In which
you want to get some more sleep and don't give me a hard time.
You're starting to sound a bit ridiculous, to be honest.
You think I'm starting to sound ridiculous?
In which she gets all this abuse, right, because she's Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
So that is the point of the story.
Okay.
Now, she gets the abuse because of a tweet she put out. So I'll mention the tweet once. You want to dwell on the tweet for 20 minutes.
Because I'm trying to figure out what she's talking about.
The story's finished, so forget it.
I'm just trying to figure out what she's talking about.
Well, figure it out yourself.
I'll figure it out for myself,
I don't think our millions of listeners
what would you prefer to talk about?
No, you talk about anything you like. Do you know
how
what?
About this from Squirrels, then?
Yes.
Drink kombucha and turmeric all the time. Great health effects. Turmeric mixed into coconut milk and honey is very good.
That's the stuff that we were talking about with the pork scratchings,
That is the stuff we were talking about.
Yeah, turmeric shots with Hawaiian poke and kombucha.
Yes.
During the course of my research, of course, which I keep on doing all the time.
Yes.
And of course, we were researching Cuba this week.
Yeah.
I came across the detailed history of the East India Company.
Did you?
You will not believe it. You will not believe how powerful they were.
Well, that's all part of the taboo story, isn't it?
Of course it is. They had 280 ships at a time when the Royal Navy had half that number.
Yeah.
They were so powerful, it was... In fact, the government took them apart in the end after the Tea Act, which led to... led to us losing America. Led to the Boston Tea Party fiasco.
Right.
And then the government of Great Britain said, we've got to take them down because they're splitting up the empire for their own benefits.
Right.
They were going to acquire America. The East India Company...
Well, it sounded like they sort of had acquired it in some ways, hadn't they?
Not really. They owned India and they were going to acquire America, and the British government said, hang on, we're becoming the second power in our own land. It does detail the terrible story about
how did they start
the Black Hole of
Company?
Calcutta. Sorry?
How did they start?
Well, they started literally by the way that all things started in this country. Because we're a seafaring nation, we were able to build good ships. So we went to places other people hadn't gone.
Right.
So the East India Company first set up its first permanent trading post in India in 1612 in the town of Surat. And when we got there with our expert knowledge, we set up production factories and then expanded within 5 years. No, it was...
but would they not have had to have been started by some very wealthy man or somebody who was given the sort of royal assent or whatever it is?
No, we expanded to Bombay, Madras and Calcutta. No, the guys went there, they had knowledge, there were trees, they cut down the trees, they built factories, they started production, it was very, very cheap for local labour. They took it all, they took spices and cloths back to Britain and then got a royal charter, you know, when they had something to produce, to say, yeah, OK, we'll give you that trade route and all that kind of stuff. And it built up into like a huge, massive company. So big that it literally ruled the world. 1839 to 42, the first Opium War was won by the East India Company. It wasn't. This was against China. It wasn't won by the British government. It was won by the East India Company. Okay. Second Opium War, 1856-60. The Chinese had to agree to legalise the trade of the East Indian Company. Now the shocking thing, right, was the Indian Mutiny. Began in 1857. Started with the rumour that rifle cartridges had to be bitten open with greased with either beef or pork. Deeply offensive to the local Hindu population.
But it's still an interesting idea that whoever came up with it didn't have any... didn't just... why did it just start with one person and one guy who suddenly went, well, why isn't anybody doing this? Why was he the guy that started it?
Well, that's like saying... How come Bill Gates managed to start Microsoft? Why wasn't anybody else doing it? It was a natural development of the way the world was going. And it just so happened that we built ships then that could go further and further, go around the Cape of Good Hope, right?
Yeah.
So they go beyond Africa for the first time to the east side of Africa. There were British ships that got there first. They claimed the territory. That's the way it went in those days.
I see.
That's why some would say that actually Africa was populated from the south first, not the north, through sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah,
because actually it was the Dutch who landed all their ships on the Cape.
I still don't understand what Taboo's about, though, nevertheless, despite all of that. But I think it's 2 more episodes to go, so perhaps all will be revealed.
It's a bit dark, as
we shall see. We shall see. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking to a man who knows how things work, Jonathan Strickland. So he's going to be telling us about what life is going to be like in the future. We already heard earlier from a man in Hollywood who's been in the Dubai World Government Summit talking about what's going to be life like in the future. So we shall see. Apparently the UK has been hit by 188 high-level cyber attacks in the last 3 months. So you better watch your emails and your bank accounts. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Way out in the water, see it swimming.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be, of course, a podcast coming out a little bit later on. We'll be back on the warm-up tomorrow. I think it's early again. Is it 10 o'clock tomorrow?
10 o'clock.
Because of the FA Cup scenario.
Yeah.
Now, if I said to you, what do you think is the cheapest place to go for a summer holiday in the world?
Yeah.
After a total of 84 destinations have been analysed and ranked in terms of their value, right? It would include the cost of a hotel, food, drink, taxi and entertainment for one night. Where do you think that would be?
Oh, I've no idea. It's just one of those lists again, isn't it? Cheapest, middle, more expensive.
Well, it's
you know
Sofia.
what I mean? Sofia?
£38.21.
Where's that?
Where's Sofia?
Yes.
Well, it's in Eastern Europe, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah. I thought you'd been to Sofia.
No, I don't think so.
No?
Which country's it in?
I think it's in, it's in sort of, is it not in Bulgaria?
Bulgaria.
Or somewhere like that.
I think I talked about Budapest the other night.
Budapest is in Hungary, yeah.
Which is, apparently it's one of those hidden gems.
Yeah.
And there's lots of those now. Now that Eastern Europe is not a closed society anymore like it used to be, people actually I've spoken to said they've been to Albania on holiday and found it to be very, very partial indeed.
Well, the climate's very good there.
Yeah, in Albania,
it's the Greece, which is where you're going.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but I mean, I imagine on your trip it will cost you an awful lot more than £38.21.
Oh, indeed. Considerably more
for the hotel.
Indeed.
For the food. For the drink, and for the, quotes, entertainment.
It certainly will.
The most expensive place to go is Zurich, £170.43.
Yeah, but who'd want to go there except for business anyway?
And they also say New York, £157. I don't know where you're going to get a hotel room in New York for £157.
Well, there's, what we might call welfare-type hotels, aren't there?
Welfare-type hotels? I don't know. I've never stayed in one of those.
Well, neither have I. I'll tell you what I found very odd. Now, Heineken is one of the biggest sort of beer companies in the world.
It is.
You'd agree?
It is.
And, their famous expression used to be refreshes the parts other beers can't reach, right? For some unknown reason, and I don't get this feeling, socially, maybe you do, the company is planning to massively expand its production of alcohol-free beer.
Oh, really?
Now, why
are they not? I mean, because you know how beer has now become run by about 4 massive companies.
Yes.
I'm not even sure if Heineken is now not owned by an American company.
Actually, no, I think it's independent.
Oh, is it?
It's still controlled by the Heineken family. It sells 2 billion pints of low or no alcohol beer around the world.
Right.
Many of which are so-called Radler versions of brands such as Amstel Tiger and Dos Equis.
Dos Equis.
Dos Equis, that's right. Yeah, they contain lemonade. But now they say they're going to launch a new alcohol-free lager because the demand is there.
Really? Well, maybe it's because so many people now, can't drink because they're driving, or they go into situations where maybe they're at work and they're not allowed to drink. Well, we had that thing from Lloyd's the other day, right?
Yes.
Where you're not allowed to drink between the hours of 9 and 5.
Yes.
And I wonder whether it's because, drink is becoming a thing of the past.
Yeah, maybe it is.
People are trying to be... I told you when I went to that game at Barcelona, the new camp, Barcelona and Real Madrid.
Yes.
And it's all sponsored by Estrella, which is the Spanish beer.
Yes.
And I went to get a beer because I thought, oh, great, so they sponsor it. There's a tap there. And it was all non-alcoholic.
Yeah, no.
So they were selling non-alcoholic beer, which
what a whole festival selling non-alcoholic beer?
No, inside the football stadium.
Oh, which stadium again?
The New Camp.
New Camp, yeah, right, fine. No, I understand that. You see, what I don't get is, I think if you're going to drink non-alcoholic beer, you've got to go out with people who are drinking non-alcoholic beer.
Why would you think so?
Well, you see, for instance, last time I was up in Chester, right, I contacted an old mate of mine who actually I started on the Chester Chronicle with. And in the 35 years since then, his career's gone one way. He was totally a sports football writer.
Yeah.
My career went the other way and that kind of stuff. But he did extremely well. And he has almost entirely lived in Chester all that time because he was always a Northern football reporter.
He always worked on the Chester Chronicle?
No. He went on to work for all the national titles. He worked for the Sun, the Express, the Mail. He had a very successful career. So anyway, I go back, to Chester on business, actually it was, and, look after family matters. And I gave him a call. I stayed at the Grosvenor and I said, let's meet up for a drink. He said, fine. So I was planning a sort of, a normal evening.
Normal?
Yeah. Now,
quite a lot of bladderation.
Yes, that's right, yes. Now, he arrived and he was in the bar before me, and I came down and said, sorry, I'm late, just got out of the shower and all that kind of stuff. And I went to get a second round, and because I'd put myself up a drink at the bar as I went down to sit with him. And I said, what's that? And he said, it's that. I said, oh, what is that then? He said, oh, it's non-alcoholic. He said, it's all I drink these days.
Now, what was it, a non-alcoholic beer?
Yeah, but it looked like a bottle of beer. It looked like a normal bottle of beer, but it wasn't. It was non-alcoholic. And I said, oh. So, anyway, I went and got him one. Then we had a third drink, non-alcoholic beer. Now, the point is, without over-egging the virtues of intoxication... If you're out with a pal and there's only one of you, there's two of you, only one pal, and you work through an evening and you're visiting a few old haunts in Chester, the effect of the drink should take place in both of you at the same time so that you're both on the same wavelength by the end of the night. But you are not both on the same wavelength if I'm drinking large glasses of Pinot Grigio and my mate is drinking bottles of non-alcoholic beer. It doesn't work.
Well, it doesn't. So presumably the ending of the evening was sooner than you thought.
Much sooner.
Yeah.
Because...
But then lots of people can quite happily go out for the night without drinking anything. I mean, that's now the world in which we live, right?
Well, I wouldn't go out with somebody who did that.
Really?
That's of no interest to me whatsoever. And I'm non-alcoholic.
Well, I mean, you could go out for the evening and you could go to the theatre and watch a play without drinking, can't you?
Yeah, of course I can, but you have a drink at half-time, have a bottle at half-time, have a bottle before the show, bottle at half-time, loads after the show, the after-show party and all that. and you enjoy the bit of theatre in between.
Yeah, but there's plenty of people
which only takes about an hour and a half anyway.
But there's plenty of people that don't do that, though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that's fine. But I have a certain behavioural pattern in my social life.
Yes,
and it does not include drinking with teetotalers.
Well, it doesn't include very many places where you would go without having a drink either, because that's just the culture from where you come.
I agree.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of people don't have the same belief.
Well, that's okay, that's fine. But the problem is, having known the guy I'm talking about for so many years, like all my working life, and having had so many great nights out with him around Britain, and probably, I've met him in, places abroad where he's been covering games, and I've been there doing the fans or something like that, and we've had loads of sessions over the years, and then to suddenly, don't you think that...
Did you ask him why he'd stopped drinking?
He said he was having a month off because he,
Oh, what, was it dry January or something?
Well, it was November, actually. That was the
dry
point.
November.
It was last November. Well,
that's fair enough, isn't it?
Well, no, because I said, look, how often do I see you? I said, I see you once every 2 years. Just give it up for tonight. He said, I can't. It's my dry November month. And I said, it completely changes the atmosphere of the night. Now, had he told me before he was coming to see me, and I think he did, actually, but I thought he was joking.
You assumed that you'd be able to win him around.
I thought he was joking, that, I won't be drinking, I wouldn't have made the arrangement. I'd have said, look, I'll tell you what, John, I'm going to go off and do something else.
I'll find somebody that I can have a drink with.
That's right, that's basically it. And I'll see you next time I'm up or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, he's a great guy, and we're going to meet up again next time I'm there. But what I'm saying is, I think that people who have now become teetotal should be aware of their responsibility to let the people they socialise with know all about that arrangement.
But don't you think that
it completely changes the mechanic?
Well, of course it does. Particularly if there's only one or two of you. But also the idea that people go out and get bladderated all the time when they go out for a drink is very much anathema to so many people now. It's no longer the thing to do.
But I don't get bladderated.
I'm not saying you do, but the fact that you said when you go to the theatre you'd want to have a drink beforehand, you'd have a drink at half time, a drink afterwards. Most people don't do that. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll go with somebody who does. I go with people who actually do that, so that's fine. But, I mean, I think it's about 3 or 4 years now since I had one of those nights when you kind of thought, oh, crikey, what did I get up to last night? It's ages since that happened to me, because I don't drink anything like I used to.
Apart from the night you lost your phone.
Well, that was an evening. That was an early evening, so that was just a blind spot. That wasn't anything to do with drink at all.
Blind spot.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that you know what it's like. If you and I went for a few drinks and I suddenly said, oh, I'm not having any alcohol tonight, you'd want to get out of there after 2 drinks.
I wouldn't get out of there after 2 drinks anyway.
Yeah, well, OK, fair enough. But what I'm saying is you drink alcohol in a mutually appreciative way with your mate or your mates.
But you do, yeah. But the point is it's a social thing, right? So you're drinking because you're with somebody, whereas the way you're describing it is that you want to do the drinking whether you're with somebody or not. Therefore, if the person who's with you isn't drinking, then you don't want to be with them.
That's right.
So it's not really social drinking.
But you're the same. You wouldn't want to go out.
No. If I met somebody I hadn't seen for years and they said I'm not really drinking, it wouldn't mean that I would then ditch them and say, well, you can get lost.
You would. You'd get fed up with it.
I wouldn't.
You would. You'd get fed up with it.
My daughter, for example, in January wasn't drinking very much.
That's your daughter. That's not an old mate you see every 2 years.
Well,
no,
it's
different.
But I didn't say to her, well, I'm not really interested in going out for dinner with you if you're not going to drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, anyway, it says here, it says, by the way, Heineken make €286 million sort of every quarter or something like that.
They're still selling plenty of real beer then.
They're selling plenty of real beer, but they're selling more and more of. See, there's one brewer in this country called St Peter's Brewery in Suffolk, so that'll be quite near to my Orwell Quay pad. Has launched what it claims is the first alcohol-free real ale.
Yes.
The flavour of St Peter's without, that's what it's called.
That sounds really pointless.
Yeah, St Peter's without has garnered a strong following and has now secured export deals with 15 countries.
Yeah. Yeah, can you call it real ale if it's not real ale?
Well, if it's real ale without alcohol, I don't think you can you? Yeah. The research, the Heineken research, reveals, they say, that in Spain, non-alcoholic beer now accounts for 10% of all sales.
Yes.
And Heineken say we are seeing huge success there.
And it doesn't taste of anything, does it? I mean,
no.
Because in the end, in Barcelona that night, because it was very hot, I bought some beer, and only later sort of realised it was non-alcoholic. And there's sort of no point to it.
Yes.
It doesn't seem to me to be any reason to drink it.
Yes, that's right.
You know, if you want to drink a soft drink, drink one. If you want to drink beer, drink beer.
Yeah. Guess what? After this announcement, this plan, shares in Heineken, which trade in Amsterdam, rose by €2.35.
Right.
And which is a big rise
so
on the share price of
€75.30. It's obviously the way of the future.
That's about a 4% rise. Amazing.
Right. Maybe time to buy some shares.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not keen. This is Talk Sport.
I'm heavenly blessed and worldly wise. I'm a peeping Tom techie with X-ray eyes. Things are going great and they're only getting better. I'm doing all right, getting good grades. The future's so bright. I gotta wear shades. I gotta wear shades.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. Naylor says, my wife can't drive, so when we go out, I can't drink. Then to rub salt in the wound, she doesn't drink either. Which must make for a bit of a miserable old night out, I dare say.
Indeed, yeah.
Now, Jonathan Strickland is a man who's the host of a show called How Things Work.
Yes.
You and I have been talking about the future many times, and it's all the various contraptions that we're going to be able to have to our disposal.
Yes.
Just the other week, you were talking about flying cars, and I was kind of dismissing the idea because I thought, there's no way that they can put a flying car up anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I think Jonathan's going to disagree and say that it might be possible. Jonathan, very good morning to you.
Guys, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's really exciting. And flying cars, that's like the big thing people ask about when they talk about, well, when's the future going to be here? Well, it's when I get my flying car.
Right.
And there are a whole bunch of companies trying to make it happen soon.
But is it really a flying car, or is it just a kind of a mini helicopter? Because some of the things I've seen look as if they're just really little helicopters.
Yeah, I think it's more fair to say they are a quadcopter drone on steroids.
Right.
So if you're familiar with the quadcopters that use with a remote control, it's like that, but much bigger. In most of the cases, the designs are some version of that. It's vertical takeoff and landing, like a helicopter. And, I would say it looks more like a drone than a traditional car does. But on the flip side of it, by doing the VTOL strategy, you don't need any sort of landing strip or any kind of runway. You just take off vertically, and then you can tilt the rotors or actually tilt the whole vehicle, but I think that might be a little distressing for a passenger in order to move forward.
Well, I mean, Jonathan, I think it's amazing that in this day and age and the way that, we technology has advanced so rapidly throughout the last part of the 20th century, early part of the 21st, that we don't have cars now whereby if you're on the freeway and you come up behind a car in front of you that's going too slow, you should just be able to press a button, lift your car up into the air, go over the car in front of you, not around it like we do now on the road, and just keep going. Surely the technology's there to do that. I mean, blimey, do you remember Supercar? A kids' programme from sort of 40 years ago. It just used to get in it, and it just used to shoot up into the air.
Well, I'm of the age where I remember Danger Mouse and the flying cars.
Yes.
So, yeah, I agree fully with you. We should definitely be there by now. The interesting thing to me is that most of the ones that are being proposed right now are autonomous flying cars. And when you think about it, that to me makes more sense than something that would be under the passenger's control because, as you say, we already see maniac drivers on the road terrestrially. Can you imagine what they would be like if they were flying overhead? So, you've got a company called eHang, which is out of China. They've got this enormous quadcopter-style drone that they've already been showing off. They showed it off at 2016 in Las Vegas at the CES that year. I saw it in person this past CES at 2017's event. And then you've got Airbus. They've got Project Vahana. They're planning on having a working prototype by the end of this year. The eHang one's supposed to be flying in Dubai by July.
Wow.
And then Uber has Uber Elevate. They just hired a guy from NASA to be the head of their director of technology.
See, that's amazing.
So everyone's really gung ho.
Yeah.
But what is the difference between these projects then and sort of passenger drones? Because there's developments on that front as well, right? So is a flying car the same thing as a passenger drone or not?
In these terms, I would say they are essentially the same thing. No one has come up with something that looks like the Jetsons car or anything that's remotely resembling the cars that you and I are familiar with. These are really, they're cars in name only. They're really drones. The interesting thing to me is there's a notable person who is saying that flying cars are a terrible idea. We absolutely should not do it. And it's someone that I think a lot of people are surprised by, and that's Elon Musk, the guy behind SpaceX and Tesla.
Yeah.
He's saying, all it takes is one terrible mistake where a rotor comes flying off, and then you've got a tragedy on your hands. And with enough flying cars in the air, the question is, it's a matter of time. So also, we've got people trying to make driverless cars on the road, and we haven't cracked that nut yet either. So how does going into the air, where you have extra dimensions to worry about, how is that easier?
Yeah, but the thing is, any new technology is going to be fraught with mistakes. When we first built trains, they came off the railway lines. And when we first built cars, we had a puncture and somebody was killed. It's always going to happen. Jonathan, can we move on? Because I love this story about office sensors when you leave your desk. Now, Mr. Graham and I, the two of us here, we were brought up in a world of newspapers where what you did was, classically, you left your jacket on the back of your chair at the desk where you were sitting, and then you disappeared to the pub downstairs, but you left your jacket there to make your boss think that you had just nipped off to the toilet or something. You know what I mean?
Other people sometimes kept their jackets on all the time, so that whether or not they were there, they knew that that the jacket was around.
That's right, and you always left a sort of half-open newspaper with a pen on top of it or something like that. Now, under this new system, apparently the seat you sit in and the desk you sit at will monitor all the time into a computer just how long you've been there, where you've gone, and how much work you're doing. This is a bit Big Brotherish, isn't it?
I think it certainly has the potential to be incredibly invasive, and it goes even further than what you were suggesting, because there are certain systems that include microphones that detect how frequently and how long you speak to fellow employees. Now, that might be to monitor how well teamwork is going in certain projects, but you could also argue, you're a real chatty Cathy. You need to shut your mouth and get to work. That could be...
Also, I mean, most people
at every desk.
And most people now, Jonathan, have some form of pass to get electronically through the security in wherever they work. And, I mean, I've heard stories of where that can be basically tracked as well, right? So you can track the person while they're inside the building as to where they're actually going and where they're spending time.
Absolutely. I mean, there are multiple methodologies. You could do RFID, you could do low-energy Bluetooth, but the point is there are plenty of different ways where you could set up sensors, and then whatever your pass is just to get into the office is an activator. And every time you pass by one of those sensors, it has a little ping, and it says, oh, well, Jonathan has just walked through the break room again. Yeah. Jonathan is the reason our coffee costs so much.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what I think could happen here, Jonathan. In the early days of factories in Britain, they had what they called a clocking in and clocking off card. You put this card into a machine when you came in the morning, and you put it into the machine when you left in the evening, and you were paid for how much time you were there. What about getting a lowly employee in the same company as you to sit at your desk whilst you're out at the cocktail bar having a swift drink?
So you're saying I would hire an employee to act as my jacket on the back of my chair?
Absolutely.
I like it because it creates jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. It's trickle-down economics, that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I want people to be at work. I want people to feel like they are contributing to society, and if it means that I can pop on downstairs and grab a drink, that's amazing.
Sure.
Although you won't find very many people down there drinking these days because people keep being banned from drinking alcohol during the day. But let's talk about cyber attacks as well, because with the Trump presidency, he's been talking an awful lot about leaks and the press and all that kind of thing. And clearly, he said that everybody is now at risk of being attacked by, whether it's the Russians, whether it's the Chinese, some form of cyber attack. Has cybersecurity got any better?
Well, cybersecurity is at a pretty good state. The problem is that the weakest link in any security system is always going to be the people, and we don't have enough buy from the general public and specifically from government employees around the world in the proper security measures, and that leaves our systems much more vulnerable. On top of that, we're seeing a lot more state-sponsored hackers, meaning that they have the backing of entire governments buying the fastest machines and the most sophisticated software. So we're getting to a point where it's like a cyber arms race, and the people who want to get into systems are starting to really pick up a lot of steam. And meanwhile, we're still kind of lagging behind when it comes to educating and using best practices to make sure our systems remain safe.
I mean, everybody goes on about, we're warding off 6 or 8 cyber attacks a day, but actually, yes, isn't this all a sort of, aren't people creating work here for, what is the truth of the matter? Do we have enough secrets for the Russians to want to steal them? Because I get the impression that everybody now in the whole world knows what everybody else is doing all the time.
Well, I just have to ring up that guy Stephen Flynn.
Yeah, exactly. That is the consequence of the computer world.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also a fear not just of stealing secrets, which, and as you point out, we've gotten into a world where information is synonymous with power and money, and everyone is in everyone else's back pocket. The other issue is compromising these systems so that should there ever come a time where things escalate, you could quite possibly mess with very important infrastructure in another country's systems. For example, the Ukraine recently has accused, or at least government officials in the Ukraine have accused Russia of infiltrating their power grid system. And that has the potential to cause great mischief at the very least. And so when you start looking at those kind of critical systems, you see where the worry is, where the concern is. And I think it's going to just escalate from here. It's not going to get better for a while, particularly now that we're in the world where more and more stuff gets connected to the internet that actually create more and more opportunities to exploit vulnerability.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, listen, Jonathan, thank you very much.
Jonathan.
Jonathan Strickland there from How Things Work. I mean, he's right there, because one of the things that is absolutely crippling to anyone is a power cut.
Yeah.
And if you get power outage at your house, or your block goes out, or for some reason some part of the country that you live in,
or if
you're
on the stand at Excel, for instance.
Well, yeah, that happened funny enough, didn't it? Well, I mean, how difficult was that to fix?
Well, I don't know, but the problem was it was only our stand that went out, and then
after
our microphones went out, because we were trying to do a broadcast with Harry Redknapp to the crowds who'd gathered to watch us do a live show, and it all stopped.
That's what I mean. And because now everything in your house is run on electricity, it's almost impossible to do anything.
Yeah.
So if people start messing around with that kind of thing, it is not good news. Now, we've got lots more to do. Loads coming up in the next hour, including the Porky Quiz, which will be filmed live on Facebook. So if you haven't seen it yet, get yourself onto Facebook. We will give you a link on Twitter so you can watch it as well. The subject matter, of course, is Cuba. I've been accused of having more than one set of questions. It'll be very easy to see that there isn't more than one set of questions. And others will be watching to see whether Porky's using any artificial aids to answer any of the questions. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
All the while, with your cute little way, will you promise that you'll say your kisses for me? Save all your kisses for me. Bye-bye, baby, bye-bye.
That's a terrible song, this.
I think it's a great song.
Oh, it's awful.
I think it's a great song.
I'd forgotten how bad it was.
No, I think it was a great song.
It's just Brotherhood of Man.
Brotherhood of Man. And I think they won the Eurovision Song Contest with it. And if they didn't, that was certainly the entry. I think they did win it.
I mean, there are some Eurovision songs that I don't mind. When you hear them, you actually think, that was all right. Yeah. But this is just awful.
No, do you see, it was during an era when we were so dominant in the Eurovision Song Contest. Every year we either won it or came second or third or whatever. And our groups with their mushy bubblegum music was because they were the other guys who pulled the skirts off. That was the other one, wasn't it? Can't remember who they
Bucks
were.
Fizz.
Bucks Fizz, that's right.
You see, that song was quite catchy. I wouldn't mind listening to that one.
No, I loved it.
Brotherhood of Man was particularly awful.
No, I loved that one. The only thing I would say, without being rude, and you could accuse me of glass houses, the lead singer who wore a white suit was just about 10 years too old for his white suit. Do you remember? And his floppy moustache.
Did they not wear like three-piece suits?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that's right.
and like flares.
Yeah, and also they had these sort of 3 steps, walk forward on the stage, then walk back.
Right.
It was very corny and all that, but it was great. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you about that...
it wasn't a very complicated dance.
No, it wasn't complicated at all. And the girls were nice to look at, and I just thought it was an innocent age, so to speak, But anyway, the thing is that the reason we're playing that is that this year's Eurovision Song Contest might not happen, and it might be the end of it altogether.
Oh, really?
Now, for years, people have been, taking the mickey out of it. It's now become very political, hasn't it? The days of Norway, nul point, and all that, has been replaced by nul point for the UK.
But also, it's got a bit daft as well with its introduction of Australia coming into it and all that.
Well, not
in Europe.
Wasn't there a winner one year and we weren't sure if it was a man or a woman because it was a sort of bearded
lady,
bearded lady, something like that. But anyway, the point is, it's now, unfortunately, like everything else in the world always does, got embroiled in a political row.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be taking place in the Ukraine, but the 21 members today of the Ukraine Eurovision Committee walked out over...
Why?
Well, over the government appointment of a new chief official of the whole proceedings. So the government have inserted their own person, you see what I mean? Are
you suggesting gerrymandering as a foot?
Well, I think that's one of the worries, a new structure and all this kind of stuff. In a resignation letter, en masse, the 21 said that they had been completely blocked from decisions about the tournament they're supposed to control.
Right.
And
was it Australia that won it last year or the year before?
Yeah, I think they did.
And so does that not mean they now have to have it in Australia?
Well,
which complicates it even more, doesn't it?
No, what they did is they scrapped that rule. And you know why? Because Ireland won it 3 years on the trot.
Yes.
And then it kept after going...
and they nearly bankrupted themselves.
It did. It then had to keep going back to Dublin.
Right.
And the cost of it is enormous because you have to put all the costs for flying people in and keeping them in hotels and all that kind of stuff, And in the end, they said, look, we're not going to enter next year but in case we win again.
Yeah.
So they changed the rules and said that it could be independent. But anyway...
Yeah, because it wouldn't make any sense if Australia were doing it, would it?
No, it wouldn't, no, because it's not even in Europe for obvious reasons. No. Anyway, it says here, Volodymyr Groysman, who is the Ukrainian Prime Minister, but you didn't know that, did you?
I didn't actually, no.
Volodymyr Groysman.
Didn't the last Ukrainian Prime Minister get injected with some kind of poison and plutonium?
I don't think...
He turned all grey, do you remember?
No, I don't think that was Ukrainian. That was Georgian, wasn't it?
Was it?
That was Georgian.
I thought it was Ukrainian.
It was a former Russian satellite state.
Right.
But I've got the feeling it might have been Georgia.
I just remember the guy's face. It turned horrible colour of grey.
Oh, it's terrible.
Shocking.
Terrible. It wasn't polonium, because polonium turns you orange.
Yeah.
They were injecting him with something else, like...
No, it was some kind of nuclear... radiation.
I thought it was cyanide or something like that.
No, I don't know.
But anyway,
he wasn't very well. Anyway.
Point is, Mr. Volodymyr Groysman, the Ukrainian Prime Minister, has said nothing threatens Eurovision. So he's saying it will go ahead, but
so it must be in Ukraine then, right?
It is in the Ukraine. Yeah. That's the whole point. Yeah, but the European Broadcasting Union, which operates Eurovision, has urged the Ukraine to carry out speedy and efficient work and review the structure of the competition.
Uh-huh.
Already they've had problems in the build-up to the competition. They say it's a little bit inappropriate to hold it while there's a war raging in the east of the country.
Well, there is that problem because, in fact, when various teams from Ukraine were playing in the Champions League I think the Europa League, they don't have to move and play in different stadiums.
That's right. And also, Orthodox Christians have condemned plans to hold the opening ceremony in the grounds of Kiev's St. Sophia Cathedral as blasphemy. Why would that be?
Well, because I suppose they would say if it's one of the Orthodox
churches... Can't you
go
and sing in an Orthodox church?
Well, you can sing, but you can't go and do things like, put a load of lights up and act the fool, as Eurovision songs tend to do.
I suppose so.
I mean, it's not very sort of... shall we say, it's not very dignified, is it?
No, that's right.
Sort of bearded ladies and those people from... Where were the ones that dressed up with all the masks and everything? They were from, like, Norway or somewhere. The ones that won it a few years ago.
I think you've got to open up the churches to other uses, otherwise, Christianity will find itself in the back seat. But anyway, you just said Australia won it. In fact, the reason why it's in the Ukraine is because Ukraine won the right to host the contest after Jamala, remember, won last year.
Yeah, okay.
But the problem was nobody quite understood that song before she was declared winner, and it's now clear it was a song about the deportation of Crimean Tartars by Joseph Stalin.
Oh, yeah.
During the cleansing period.
I remember something about that. Yeah. So it was a bit of a political song.
And that irritated and annoyed Mr. Putin and people in Moscow. So it's all become terribly political. But, I mean, would the world care if the Eurovision Song Contest suddenly disappeared off the radar, never to be revived?
Well, I certainly wouldn't care. I mean, I would. I would. But you don't really watch it, though, when it's on, do you?
No, I don't, actually. I can't bear to go to listen to it.
Did you not want to have a song into it? Did you not want to enter it one year?
Oh, we've still got plans.
Have you?
We've still got plans. I've been talking to my music man.
Oh, yeah.
And we couldn't get it together this year because the entries have to be in...
The entries had to be in, I think, last month, didn't they?
No, I think it's even earlier. I think it's like November of last year.
No.
But we're aiming to get a song together, quite literally. Yeah, so again, you see,
quite literally.
Our friend will be on the
He's already been hoisted away to a place of ill repute.
And I can tell you, we have ambitions, definitely, to put something together to enter the Eurovision Song Contest, hopefully next year.
No,
without
right.
a shadow of a doubt. He plays a guitar, and I'm lead singer.
Oh, you're lead
just
singer?
A duo.
Oh, yeah. Just a duo?
Yeah, just
like
a duo.
Simon and Garfunkel?
Yeah, that's right.
So you're not doing it as the two mics, then?
Yeah, Simon and Garfunkel, Pet Shop Boys.
Yeah. The Pet Shop Boys?
Yeah, they were two. One played a guitar, the other one didn't. Wham.
Well, one played the keyboards, actually.
That's right, one played the keyboards, the other just sang. Wham.
Wham, neither of them played guitar.
Yeah, they did. Andrew Ridgeley used to bounce around in the background playing a guitar, didn't he? Well,
I thought it was just singing.
Michael sung. No. So there's been a few groups like that, and we're hoping to be the next one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's a slight visual problem, though, there, isn't there?
Why?
Because all the people you're referring to were quite sort of slim and young and trendy looking.
Yeah, but since then
You're going for the kind of... well, I mean, people have said Kenny Rogers, but I mean, it's not really Kenny Rogers, is it?
No. Look at the modern world. The Hairy Bikers are one of the most popular sort of showbiz acts in the world now.
They're not quite as popular as Justin Bieber.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're perfectly acceptable as a visual, act, so to speak. Anyway, listen, getting back to what we've been talking about tonight.
Yes.
Some guy here called Ricky seems to have got the wrong end of the stick altogether. He said, sick of you lot talking about the absolutely disgusting East India Company as if they were saints. I didn't talk about the saints.
No.
They were sinners.
Yeah.
But what I talked about was a massive political force who actually were a phenomenon.
Apparently he's not a fan of the East India Company because it's a sort of a one-track tweeting machine.
Oh, yeah, no, he goes on to say, they're evil, they're an evil regime, they still have deep-rooted effects on modern-day India, even ISIS is incomparable to these ghouls. I think you got that completely out of order.
Getting a bit carried away.
They were a trading company, and my admiration, if any, for them was the guy at the top who organised a company that was literally bigger than any government in the world. That's quite a feat.
It is. Here's one from Andy. He says, must the future ex-Mrs. Parry be capable of 7 pints of mild before the basketball at Goodison and perhaps a pie knee trembler at half-time?
No. I mean, 7 pints of mild, I don't see mild served anywhere these days, do you?
Yeah, no. I don't think... I've never seen mild, I think, for decades.
Well, no, I agree, decades. When I used to go to the University of the Trent, right, every pub in Nottingham and Derby that we used to go over to always used to serve bitter, mild and lager.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And stouts. I think some of the real ale pubs do it, but we'll get back into that. A couple of corrections on the Ukrainian Prime Minister who was poisoned. We'll get to that later on. This is Talk Sport. Got one here from Paul, who's tweeted at the two mics. He says, hey, chaps, I got married today in New York City on the Bladerisation and Rogerisation trail now. How about a shout-out for me and the wife, Sam?
Who's this?
It's a guy called Paul.
Paul? And he says he got married today in Manhattan?
In New York, yeah.
Oh.
He doesn't say Manhattan specifically, but I presume he did.
In New York. And what's his wife's name?
Sam.
Paul and Sam?
Paul and Sam.
Well, to say a very, very happy and blissful life ahead of you. Congratulations on your marriage today. I hope you have a great time in the Apple.
And may it go well.
Yes.
Winford says this, MG, to ensure fair play in the Porky Quiz, couldn't you get your security guard to stand next to Mr. Parry to ensure he hasn't got any notes or media devices for him to cheat with?
Totally unnecessary. Never, ever has there been a whisper or a hint of me in any way trying to usurp the rules of the competition.
There have been accusations made, though.
Accusations have been made, but completely unproven because I've never done it. I can say that, hand on heart, hand on Bible, I do not cheat.
Your hand isn't on your heart, though.
Well, you know, there's only 2/3 of my heart. There's only 1/3 of my heart working. 2/3 is not.
How about this from Ian? I remember the power cuts in the 70s. If that happened now, there would be absolute chaos. Youngsters would be screwed. It's probably right, actually, because we now have a lot more electronic devices than we had then.
I can remember the power cuts in the 70s were so bad that me and my mate had to walk to the pub because the pumps at the petrol station
this was
didn't
during
work.
your petrol station period?
No. This was during the winter of discontent.
Right. No, but I mean, were you working at the petrol station?
No, I wasn't. I was a young reporter.
Oh, right.
The winter of discontent, remember, was 1978, 79.
Was it 77-ish, no?
So, yeah, 77, 78, something like that, you know. And
because Thatcher came in 79.
79, yeah, that's the result of it.
Yeah.
But before that, in the early 70s, Ted Heath declared the 3-day week because he had a dispute with the miners and then lost an election on the back of it. Now, that was only temporary. But this particular night, I remember, my mate rang me up. I was working in Birmingham, the Birmingham Mail. We were down in Redditch, and he said, let's go for a drink. I said, yeah, the problem is I've got no petrol, and the local petrol station, which I'd already been to, can't give me any petrol because they've got no electricity, and the pumps don't work.
Right.
So I'm going to have to walk. OK, we walked. So we walked to the pub. We got in the pub. It was lit by candlelight.
Yeah.
So what's happened? There's power strike, you know. There's no power.
And presumably they couldn't pump anything that was electronic either.
Yeah, they're very absolutely right. And what was happening was the landlord, to keep his customers happy, was going down and actually scooping beer out of barrels that he'd opened, and bringing it back up in buckets and pouring it into glasses.
Right.
I mean, you know, you reverted to almost medieval-style living, you know.
I remember I was still at school, and our school week was reduced to 1 day a week on the basis that they didn't have enough power to heat the school at all.
I know,
and it was
ridiculous.
this old building, right? So we used to go to school on a Wednesday morning, and then Wednesday afternoon we would have games. And we'd get on a coach and go down to Twickenham and play football all
Unbelievable.
Afternoon. And that went on for a good, I think, at least almost an entire term.
Right.
And we used to have an hour of electricity in the morning, so you could make breakfast, and an hour of electricity at night. Between sort of 6 and 7.
That's right. It would happen.
And I mean, I try and explain this to my kids now, and they look at me as if I'm talking about something from the Stone Age. They're like, well,
it was like being reduced back to the Stone Age.
Could you not keep anything in the fridge? It was like, no. You couldn't actually buy any food and keep it. You had to just buy food and eat it.
Yes, that's
right. You couldn't really get any hot water for outside of the hours of 2 hours a day.
You couldn't.
And there was a run on candles, I seem to think. You couldn't buy any candles.
That's right. There was a run on candles. Absolutely right. Everybody bought them.
Absolutely
to light their homes. Yeah, I know. Quite ridiculous, you know.
Shocking.
Yeah, absolutely shocking. Now, lots of people trying to contact the show. For instance, Luxury Lizzie, who is a regular correspondent, sends a new picture of herself tonight, I have to say, looking very glamorous. And she says, Cuba, I'm predicting 3 out of 10. Prove me wrong, Porky, and score more, please.
Yes.
And she actually endorses the fact that, Porky does not cheat. He just steals football tickets, she says, as a little swiping aside.
That's a bit harsh.
Never stolen a football ticket in my life. I did relieve an injured football fan of his tickets once in Italy because he couldn't use them because his face had been smashed up by a gas canister which an Italian policeman had fired into his face, but he couldn't use the tickets.
Did you ever go back to him after that episode? I mean, did you ever find out whether he survived or whether he led a normal life? Or whether he even knew that you'd borrowed his tickets?
No, I didn't. But, I mean, I was very helpful. I got a message to his mother to say, don't worry about your son, he's okay.
I've got his tickets.
Well, I said he's not okay, actually. His face is all smashed up and he's broken his jaw and his cheekbones and his eye sockets and all that because he got a gas canister, a tear gas canister, straight off the end of an Italian policeman's gun straight into his face. I said, but he's not dead and he's not going to die. Don't worry, he's okay.
No, how reassuring it must have been. Maxwell says this, I drink at a working men's club and they still serve pints of mild. It's about £2.30 a pint and very popular.
Yeah, well, it's mild, though. It's dregs of... I think it's the dregs of the bitter barrel or something. It's not good.
I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Yeah.
If Porky entered Eurovision, he should bring along Padre Parry, says Alan.
Yes, good idea, except I think that's a bit too sort of religiously political.
Weird. Well, maybe that would work, though. That seems to be what they've been doing lately. And then Steve says, has Porky forgotten that MG can actually sing in tune? Or is he still looking back in anger?
Yeah, well, there you go. Now, this guy, Ricky, has turned out to be a bit of a half-bake.
Yeah.
He says, a call to sack Mike Porky Parry. I appeal to TalkSport, get rid... Rent-a-Kill have good deals going on cockroaches. Well, I don't know.
Why is he being so unpleasant?
I've no idea.
I don't think you should give him the oxygen publicity, to be honest.
I
don't think you should give him the oxygen and publicity.
No, I don't think I should.
This is a guy who started up a Twitter account in order to start abusing you.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. And he sends a few other quite, pitiful communications. So I'm afraid, Ricky, I think it'll be the blocking route for you, pal, but there you go.
And here's one from Coco the dog, who says, I'm predicting a power cut after question 2 to enable the second set of questions to come out.
Yes.
I think Coco the dog's been eating some funny dog food.
I think you're absolutely right. Ricky, by the way, just one last one before we dispense with his miserable communications.
Yes.
Who introduced opium to the Chinese? Who got millions hooked and traded opium for tea? Devil's Own East India Company. But I'm sorry, that is a bit like saying who, because it's the historical equivalent, who introduced tobacco into Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, these things are part of the development of the world and the world trading bloc, I'm afraid.
Well, that's exactly what happened, right?
Yes.
And, you can't win them all.
No.
Speaking of things that are quite interesting that we're doing over the course of the next few days, because we should mention about the website being launched on Saturday.
Yes.
We are able to give away the venue of where it's happening, right?
We are.
It is at the Canary Wharf branch of the Sports Bar and Grill. Around about 1 o'clock.
Around about 1 o'clock we'll be there. Now, can I just say that it is not a free drinks party or anything like that.
No.
You know, whilst we're happy to see everybody, we've done events before like book signings. No, not book signings, DVD signings and that kind of stuff. It's great to see everybody, but we are not a charity, and I don't mean that in a miserable sort of a way. No.
I think some people misinterpreted your earlier statement that it was a party.
Well, it's only a party in the sense that we are announcing the launch of the Two Mikes website. Now, in fairness, and I think you would agree with this, I'm never slow in buying somebody a drink.
Absolutely not.
And I've met lots of our followers and fans over the years, and I've been very happy to say, how nice to see you, thank you very much for your kind words, have a drink, and I buy them a drink. In fact, I remember before the Portsmouth show, I got there a bit early, and there was a game on. In fact, it was the Cup final, wasn't it? It was the FA Cup final.
Because we were worried that if the FA Cup final went into extra time,
that's right,
we might have to push the show back.
That's right, yeah. And in fact, I was in a bar across the road from the Guildhall.
Yes.
And a number of people came up to me and said, "Oh, hi, Mike, amazing to see you in here. Aren't you doing the show?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, we're all coming." And I went and bought a round of drinks for about 10 people, because I was very happy to say...
And sometimes people buy you a drink, and that's the way it goes.
Of course they do. But I don't want anybody to be under the misapprehension that, we have a corporate sponsor who is laying on, vast amounts of drink and food.
Grog.
And grog. That's our launch on Saturday. It is, honestly, it's an event that's going to...
I think we call it a gathering,
We're calling it a gathering. We're going to unveil and announce the launch of the Two Mikes website.
Which is going to have some pretty cool things on it.
Pretty cool things on it, and gives us a platform to connect with yourselves and everybody out there, and gives everybody out there a platform to connect with us. And unveil lots of other things that are going on, including the development on the Porky scratchings, which I won't go to in detail, but that takes place in about 3 weeks' time.
Yes, it's all happening. How about this from Rico? He says, Porky for Eurovision, that'd be worth watching again.
Yes.
Hashtag nil point.
Yeah, that's not really nice. I mean, it'll be a quite unique song that we'll get hold of. Now, what time is the Porky Quiz?
The Porky Quiz is in about 15 minutes' time.
Right, and we're doing this live, yeah?
We are going to be filming it live. Facebook Live, yes.
Facebook Live,
so what will happen is that the camera will start to roll, just as the independent quizmasters pass the questions to the producer, Dave. He will come in and hand me the sealed envelope, which contain the questions, and we will then begin.
Yeah. I didn't realise that these questions are written up to minutes before we actually go on air.
I don't think it's a question...
Sorry, so the quiz goes on air.
I don't think it's a question that they were written up to that point, but I think the point is because there have been allegations in the past of you getting hold of the questions, that I think they feel that it's better not to communicate the questions until the very last moments, because otherwise, you don't want to be tempted. I mean, for example, if you saw a copy of the quiz questions on a printer out there in the general sort of room, you would be tempted to look at them, wouldn't you?
No.
It's only human nature.
No, I wouldn't. No, you'll find that I would never do that.
I think it's just human nature, and I wouldn't blame you for it.
No.
That's why it's best not to put temptation in your way.
999.
You see what I'm saying? This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as hoes. Yeah, but maybe it's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate.
It's Talk Sport. We are the two mics. The Porky Quiz is only about 10 minutes away, so stay tuned. It's going to be broadcast on Facebook Live, where you can then watch it forever and ever and ever if you wish to. Last week's was very popular. I think we about 17,000 people looked at it in the end.
Yeah.
Do you know I've been invited to a fashion show a bit later on?
Where?
In central London.
Sorry, on today, on Friday?
Yeah, Friday, yeah.
And where is it?
It's in Soho, actually.
And is there free booze?
Well, I don't know about free booze,
Yeah.
but it's a sort of Scottish-related thing.
Scottish,
It's a friend of mine from Edinburgh who I used to work with up at the radio station.
Who's
she's
that
now
then?
a designer.
Oh, I see.
And she's invited me along.
Is there a tartan aspect to this fashion
It's all cashmere,
collection?
Scottish cashmere, apparently.
Scottish cashmere.
Which sounds very exciting. And apparently it's a mixture of Scottish cashmere, a load of models and some whiskey.
Well, that sounds good.
It does, doesn't it?
And what's the building it's in?
It's in the Groucho Club, I think.
Groucho Club?
Yeah.
Oh, that's for media tarts, really, isn't it?
It's very much the chattering classes sort of place. Did you ever belong to it?
No.
Have you ever been in there?
Yes.
When did you go there?
I saw there, you know, the guy who drank himself to death and slowly had this... No, he had...
Well, that's a very big area.
Well, it is a big area, but he had one leg taken off, then I think he had the other leg taken off because he used to smoke about 80 fags a day as well. You know,
I can't think who that is.
Yeah, Jeffrey Bernard is unwell.
Oh, you mean Keith Waterhouse?
No, Jeffrey Bernard.
Oh, actually, Jeffrey Bernard.
Yeah, Keith Waterhouse wrote the play Jeffrey Bernard is Unwell about Jeffrey Bernard, who was such an alcoholic that his body parts just collapsed one by one.
Just gave up, yeah.
But he used to write a column in Spectator.
He did.
And he used to tell about the excess of his alcoholism. I mean, he hadn't cleaned his flat for about, 11 years.
Yeah.
Because in drink, he was always incapable of even get off his couch, you know. But friends used to come round and literally carry him around, because he lived in Soho. Yeah. Carry him round the corner to the Coach and Horses.
The French House or the Coach and Horses?
French House, Coach and Horses, over the pubs in Soho, and just prop him up in the corner, and he'd just drink all day. But they sent him home with a bottle of vodka once, and he was sitting in front of his telly in this pit of and realised that he couldn't...
Sort of studio apartment in Soho.
Studio apartment in Soho. But so weak, you know, so debilitated by the effects of alcohol in his body, he wasn't able to get his fingers of his hand into a gripping motion to take the top off a bottle of vodka.
Oh, really?
So he had to bang with his stick for hours and hours on the floor until eventually somebody came up to see what was going on to get them to take the top of the bottle of vodka.
Just break it.
Well, he hasn't got the strength in his arms to do anything, to break it or open it. And
what a terrible way to end your life.
And anyway, so I went in the Groucho. Is it the Groucho? Yeah, the Groucho one day, and coming towards me was Jeffrey Bernard in a wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
With one leg completely gone, and I think only half of the other one left. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he was being pushed by a mate of his who was an actor,
right?
Who played a private detective, very famous. He had a very lived-in face and a gravelly voice like that. You know, I'm just a private detective trying to make a living.
Private detective on BBC Here or something.
On BBC Here. I'm trying to think what his name was now. He was quite famous at the time. He was like this private detective who, you know, was scraping a living and all this kind of stuff.
You're not thinking of Shoestring, I suppose?
No, not Shoestring, actually. Much older guy than that. But anyway, the point of the story is, as I stopped and said, hello, Jeffrey, can I get you a drink? Because that's the only way he lived. Yeah. You know, he didn't have any income. He wrote this column in Spectator because somebody rang him up once a week and he expressed a few thoughts when he was, 1 second, sober. So he didn't have any money, so he'd go there and people would offer to buy him a drink. Yeah. And after buying him a drink, and this guy told me to stop patronising him, because I was some big shot, trying to help. I said, no, just offered to buy him a drink. Right. What's your problem? Anyway,
so the actor guy had a go at you?
The actor guy had a go at me, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, I learnt later the actor guy drunk himself to death as well.
Really?
After owning a pub in a very nice place in the Midlands, near to where I used to live, called Henley...
Henley Grange?
No, it wasn't Henley-on-Thames. That's the big town.
That's Berkshire, isn't it?
Yeah, it was something like Henley Grange or something like that, But anyway, a lot of people went to the Groucho, ended up in the great bladderation.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite as trendy as
bin in the sky.
I don't think it's quite as trendy as it used to be. I think Soho House is now the place to become a member.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
But I was never a member of any of these places. I'm not that keen on joining private clubs.
No.
You've got the sailing club, of course, that you're a member of, right? Or several sailing clubs.
2 sailing clubs.
You're a member of 2.
Yeah.
What are the subs on those places?
Well, I'm an honoured guest. I'm a VIP guest, you see.
So you're not a member then?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm an honorary member.
Well, then you have to pay, don't you?
No, I'm an honorary member.
Honorary member?
Yeah. I mean, do you think the Duke of Edinburgh pays his subs to the Cows Racing Club where he's president?
Well, he's the president of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you now suggesting that you are of the same nature as the Duke of Edinburgh is to this place?
No, not at all. The Commodore is...
Do they put a red carpet out when you turn up?
Hey?
Do they put a red carpet out?
No, of course not. The Commodore is the boss of a sailing club. Yeah, yes. The Commodore, yeah. Right. And he puts his blue blazer on, his white yachting hat, and I go and have a pink gym with him occasionally. Will you be popping in there
this weekend?
Maybe. Could be. It's a bit early in the year, actually, to get things going, but yeah, could be.
Does that affect cows when they have Cows Week? Does it affect all that area where you are?
Listen, when Cows Week is on, the yachting, the yacht club that I'm a member of is like the centre of the world.
Well, I'd quite like to come down there. You should invite me.
Why?
Because I'm a bit of a sailor. I have actually sailed a yacht, unlike you.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I have. I've sailed a yacht around the Caribbean and around the northeast coast of America.
Yeah, but that's only on a free holiday.
Yeah, but I was actually sailing the boat, though.
How many times have I told you about the fact that we're doomed if people keep paving over their gardens?
You told me about 2 days ago.
Yeah, well, guess what? The butterfly population has massively reduced over the last 10 years.
Really?
Since people started doing that. And Tom Brereton, who's the head monitor at the Butterfly Conservation Trust, said that butterflies in towns could be emerging too early in the year to find any food sources in flowers, or could be remaining out after flowers had died. Caterpillars could be tricked by urban warmth into hibernating too late. All this adds to a massive decline in the butterfly population in this country.
Is he saying the butterflies are coming out already too early in the year? Because I've not seen any, to be honest. It was a bit milder this week than it was previously.
Well,
but I've not seen any butterflies yet.
There's a Centre for Ecology and Hydrology and Butterfly Conservation at Kent University, right?
Yeah.
And they have 3,500 volunteers. And they have found that butterflies in urban areas emerged on average 2 days earlier than their rural counterparts. The authors said this was probably... The authors
2 days earlier?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't make any difference.
Probably because of the urban heat island effect. Towns and cities are slightly warmer than surrounding countryside because of human activity. Yeah. And the solar radiation absorbed by concrete and asphalt.
Yes.
But...
Well, it's not very surprising, though, is it? I mean, why do these people actually exist in academia to come out with the bleeding obvious?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows that cities are warmer than the rural areas because you will drive into them and the temperature immediately goes up.
Listen, all 28 species of butterfly in this country have declined since 1995. The Essex skipper and the green hairstreak are down by 89%.
Oh, yeah.
The small tortoiseshell by 88%. And the painted lady by 81%. These are huge reductions.
Well, they are, but I don't remember ever seeing any of those type of butterflies. I've never seen a green one.
I do. And the researchers said that gardens were an important refuge for urban butterflies, but much of this habitat had been lost to paving and gravel. The number of front gardens completely paved over tripled from 1.5 million to 4.5 million.
Really?
Between 2005 and 2015.
Well, it's all part of the evolutionary cycle, isn't it? I wouldn't worry too much about it.
You see, I do.
Well, what are you going to do about it? What can you do about it?
Well, all you can do is support conservation. For instance,
you live in one of the largest conurbations in the world, right, which is the greater expanse of what is now called Greater London.
No, I live in Stockbroker.
You don't live in Stockbroker, sorry. You live in outer London, really.
Can I tell you that in addition to supporting the Duck Conservancy, which I do,
yes,
my Ducks Trust, I also am a patron of Ecological Gardens.
Ecological Gardens?
In and around Surrey.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where, you go and volunteer for a couple of days a year to help weed the place.
Is that what you do?
Yes.
When was the last time you did that? I've known you for years. I've never known you to go weeding.
No, I do it. And you paint the gates and that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Where did you do that last?
Well, I don't. I always get somebody to do it for me. That's my contribution.
But surely the point is that you're part of the community. You're supposed to go and show willing, aren't you?
What I do is
Who do you pay to do it then? Your housekeeper?
No, local youngsters. You see,
local youngsters?
Because they live nearer the place than me, and it's a benefit to them.
I see.
So I pay them to go and do the work of the conservationist.
Yeah. That's a shocking,
which I'm pledged to do.
Abrogation of responsibility.
But that's at 2 or 3 different places, and it's great because it's a little area of green. You keep it there.
But if you never go there, why would you bother?
Old people like sitting in there for a pit of peace.
Maybe that's how it'll end. Somebody will dedicate a bench to you.
Maybe.
Here's a bench where Mike Parry never sat.
I doubt that very much indeed.
People are suggesting you might be talking about Henley in Arden. Does that sound
right?
right?
Yeah, Henley and Arden. Yes, thank you very much indeed. And it's not spelt with an EY at the end. It's Henley, Henly. Henley and Garden. Beautiful, honestly, beautiful Midlands town. And it's near Solihull, which is, wealthy suburb of Birmingham.
Is it? Yeah.
And a lot of very, I would say prosperous people live around there. And it's got all these fantastic ladies' clothes shops and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Michael Elphick.
That's what a couple of people are saying.
That was him. He owned a pub in Henley and Arden.
Richard has said that he owned a White Swan in the High Street.
Ah, there you go. Thank you very
his
much
name
indeed.
was Michael Elphick.
That's right, he was. And he was Boone, wasn't he? B-O-O-N?
I don't know who he was.
Yeah, he played a private detective on telly. I think it was Boone.
Somebody else said, was the actor Alfred Burke, star of the TV series Private Eye?
No, he wasn't. I remember him. He was a right seedy individual.
Was he?
Used to eat fish and chips out of greasy paper on a park bench.
What's wrong with that?
In the opening credits.
Yeah.
Oh, he looked very greasy and seedy, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Anyway, the time is now upon us, right?
Okay.
To start filming the Porky Quiz.
Indeed.
And it's on Cuba. This is Talk Sport.
In Cuba.
There's that piece of music you were referring to a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Cuba.
Cuba.
Great piece of music.
Yeah.
That, of course, means that the Facebook live section is upon us.
Right.
You can now watch the show as it unfolds.
Yes.
Because it is Porky Quiz time, of course.
Right.
Now, any second now, I will be in receipt of the questions.
Yeah.
Mr. David Levine has just handed me
right.
the Porky Quiz
That's just
envelope.
the first set of questions, is
well,
it?
as you can see, because since you make these allegations, which are totally unfounded, I'm going to open the envelope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you that inside there is only one. Count them. One set of questions.
Oh,
okay?
right, okay.
Would you like to check the envelope to see if there's another set?
No. Oh, no, you're not that daft. No, there'll be a second set will be underneath the table or something.
Well, would you want to hang on and have a look?
No, I don't. No.
Because I think it's unfair for you to completely make these unfounded allegations.
I think we should just get on with it.
Which some people complain about.
About your blabbering,
You'd like to get on with it.
That's what the audience tune in for. That's what the audience focus in for. They want to see, they want to see the action.
Okay.
So do I.
All right, fine. Well, you can see the action on Facebook Live. I will send you a
Facebook
tweet.
Live.
A tweet connecting you to it as well. But
do you think people know how to access that?
They should be. If they're on Facebook, they can get it.
Okay.
And if they're not on Facebook, they'll be able to get it through Twitter.
Okay.
Which is what I will do very shortly.
Okay, come on, let's roll.
Now, if you get one right, you will hear this sound.
Campo de la información.
If you get one wrong, you will hear this sound.
Ha venido a crear un problema.
Yeah, they don't sound very different, actually. So.
Well, I mean, they're both Cuban,
okay.
I suppose you might say.
Okay.
Both Castro. Question number 1.
Yes.
Who is currently Vice President of Cuba?
Vice President of Cuba?
Yes.
I mean, that's a ridiculous question, I have to say, from the start.
Well, how's it ridiculous?
Well, we all know who the President of Cuba is. It's Raul, okay? Raul Castro, who was Fidel's brother, because Fidel died last year.
That's not the question, though.
Yeah, but I mean, there isn't a Vice President of Cuba. There never has been.
There's never been a Vice President of Cuba.
It's an absolute dictatorship. Raul Castro is both President, Vice President. He is.
I thought you said there wasn't a Vice President.
He is, and he's also the Trade Minister. He's Chancellor and Treasurer. So the answer is there is not a what would you say, Vice
President of Cuba.
There's no Vice President of Cuba.
Incorrect.
No.
His name is Miguel Diaz-Canel.
Oh, yeah? Who says that?
He is the Vice President of Cuba.
Oh, yeah? Listed where?
Listed in any number of articles that you may wish to find.
I say garbage.
OK, question number 2.
Yeah.
Before the arrival of the Spanish in the 15th century, Cuba was inhabited by 3 American Indian tribes.
Yes.
Could you name one of them and get the point?
The 3 American tribes were the Nonia, the Terranina, and the third one was the... Let me just think now. I think they had a Haitian influence, because Haiti's around there as well. I think it was the Akanama. They were the 3.
Incorrect.
No.
You could have had the Taino.
Yeah, I said that.
Guanajiatabi, or the Siboney people.
I said the Taino.
No, you didn't.
I did.
No, you didn't.
I did, definitely.
You did not say Taino.
I did.
Would you like to have it played back?
My interpretation, of the...
Well, the Taino were also known by another name.
Yes.
Yeah? Do you want to have another go at that?
I got that.
Well, which was the name you said?
The Nanino.
Nanino, no. It was the Arawak. So that's absolutely wrong. Incorrect.
Ridiculous
question. Number 3.
That's 600 years old, that question.
Well, it's about the history of Cuba, which is what you said you wanted.
Cuba is famous in the modern age for all the things that Cuba's been, like the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Well, wait and see whether there's
revolution.
A question. Well, wait and see whether there's a question on that.
Che Guevara and all that, know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you've been studying?
I've been studying everything about Cuba, but the relevance of the tribes who were there before it was even called Cuba. I mean, look, I don't think that question's relevant.
Well,
it wasn't known as Cuba.
Well, it doesn't matter whether
it wasn't
you think
known as
relevant.
Cuba, and it wasn't known as Cuba until Columbus arrived. So that's not Cuba.
Okay. Question number 3. Which James Bond film starring Halle Berry was filmed in Cuba on the island of Isla de los Órganos?
Isla de los Órganos is the second island of Cuba. And Halle Berry was in the James Bond film in an orange bikini, by the way, and very
famous scene. That.
Very short black hair, and I think it was Pierce Brosnan was James Bond, okay, and they were roaring around the island, and smashed up all those 1950s cars, and it was I believe it was. Definitely. Now, James Bond, you say? James Bond.
I see your eyes moving around.
No. It was the...
Looking down now.
No.
People will see this, You're on camera.
No.
You are actually on camera.
I think it was... The World Is Not Enough.
Incorrect.
No!
It was Die Another Day.
Die Another Day.
Question number 4.
See, that's not really relevant to Cuba anyway.
Why not?
Go on.
Question number 4. Yeah. When was the 10 Years' War?
The 10 Years' War?
Yes.
10 Years' War?
It lasted for 10 years, if that's any help to you.
What do you mean, when was the 10 Years' War?
When was the 10 Years' War? It's part of Cuban history.
Well, there's not really a 10 Years' War. I mean, the point is...
Well, there was a 10 Years' War.
Well, look, Castro took over in 59. They weren't fighting 10 years before that because he got locked up in between time. But, I will have to say... Now, wait a minute. Batista took over in 52. I reckon the 10 Years' War took place from 1942 to 1952.
Incorrect.
No!
It was from 1868 to 1878, in fact.
There wasn't a war going on then?
Yeah, it was. It was the 10 Years' War.
Who was fighting who?
I don't know. I've just got the question and the answer.
You don't know? There's a war going on. You don't know who was fighting it.
All I've got here is a question and the answer.
Ridiculous question and no answer.
Question number 5.
Invalid question.
Question number 5.
Yeah.
Have a listen to this.
A little bit of Monica in my life, a little bit of Erica by my side.
Feel free to dance to this. Cuban music.
A little bit of Tina's what I see. A little bit of Sandra in the sun. A little bit of Mary all night long.
Can you tell me who the artist is?
A little bit of you makes me your man.
All right, I can't think with that racket, please. Just cut it out.
Oh, you like it? I like that song.
I reckon it's the same guy who sang Uber La Liva La Loca.
Uber La Liva La Loca.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
I know who you mean. I don't think you've got the title quite right.
Yeah. And I think his first name's Ricky. Okay. Thinking aloud. I'm just thinking aloud.
I need both names. I will need both names.
Ricky.
I have to hurry you.
I think his name is Ricky Martin.
Incorrect.
No.
It's Lou Bega.
Who?
Lou Bega.
Who's Lou Bega?
He's the singer of Mambo No. 5.
Mambo No. 5?
That's that song. It's a very famous Cuban song.
Rubbish. Nobody's ever heard of that before.
Question
what a load
number
of
6.
garbage.
I'm sorry to tell you got none out of 5 so far.
Well, it's not
Question number
surprise,
6.
is it? The quality of the questions.
Question number 6. Who wrote The Double Life of Fidel Castro, My 17 Years as a Personal Bodyguard to Elida Maximo?
What?
It was a very famous book about Castro.
Oh, yeah, very famous. Yeah, world number 1 bestseller.
It was, actually.
No,
it was written by his personal bodyguard, and it gave a great insight into what Castro's life was like.
Nobody's ever read that book.
They have.
No, they haven't.
More people have read it than read Looney Tunes.
Okay, and you'll know who the personal guard was.
I just want his name.
It was...
Both names. 2 names.
It was, thinking aloud here, the personal bodyguard to Fidel Castro was... Basil Baruna.
It wasn't Basil Pereira. It's a good name, though. It was Juan Sanchez.
Ha venido a crear un problema.
He had several names.
Yeah,
that was another stupid question.
No, you should be able to get this next one, right? It's a geography question. Yeah. How far is it from Havana to Miami?
Havana to Miami?
Yeah. I'll give you 5% either way.
Do you mean how far is it from Cuba to Miami?
No, I mean from Havana to Miami.
Well, Havana is on the south side of Cuba. So, and do you mean as the crow flies?
As the crow flies.
As the crow flies. Yes. As the crow flies.
Not if you were going in a sort of old Chevrolet that was made into a boat.
Or okay. As the crow flies, it is 97 miles.
Incorrect.
No, it's not.
It's 228 miles.
Rubbish.
It's 228 miles.
The narrowest stretch of water is 97 miles.
Yeah, but that's not where Miami is it? I didn't say Florida. I said Miami.
Oh, you idiot.
Well, you idiot.
To the Florida Keys, it's 97 miles.
I didn't say to the Florida Keys.
Well, that's pathetic.
I said to Miami.
Pathetic.
That's 9 out of 7.
Well, I'm not surprised. The quality of the questions is... I'm so glad that we're recording this because people will now see how I get stitched up.
Because normally speaking, it's only recorded for a podcast.
I get stitched up. Right, keep going.
Question number 8. Well, they can see your eyes moving as well.
My eyes aren't moving anywhere,
moving
except
all over
in
the place.
despair.
What is the name of the Jack Nicholson character in A Few Good Men charged with running Guantanamo Bay?
That's another stupid question.
What?
That's not about Cuba, that's about a film.
Well, where's Guantanamo Bay?
Well, Guantanamo Bay is in Cuba.
Thank you.
But the film is a film. It's fictitious. That's nothing to do with Cuban history.
It's about Cuba.
It's not.
Well, you're not very good at Cuban history. You haven't got anything right yet.
I know everything about Cuban history. I know about the Bay of Pigs. You haven't asked me about that.
Next question's about the Bay of Pigs.
Right. Well, the answer to this one is... What's the question again?
What's the name of the Jack Nicholson character in A Few Good Men? The guy who says, you need me on that wall.
You can't handle the truth.
That's the guy. What's his name?
Lopez.
No, he's an American.
He's
an American. He's Colonel Nathan Jessup.
Yeah, rubbish.
Right, question number 9. Who was the director of the CIA during the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961?
Who was the director of the CIA?
Yeah.
CIA. Well, President John F. Kennedy was the president.
Uh-huh.
And Robert Kennedy was Justice Minister.
Was he?
Yeah. And the CIA director was, I believe it could have been, but it probably wasn't because I'm thinking of the time scale. I think it was.
Yes.
I think it was George Bush.
No. It was, in fact, a man called Alan Dulles.
Ha venido a crear un problema.
The longest-serving CIA director, funnily enough, which I was surprised you didn't know.
They must have named the airport after him in Washington, D.C.
Maybe they did, actually. They may have a point. It's the same spelling.
Yeah.
Right, finally, now, question number 10. This is on Facebook Live, by the way. If you're not watching it, you should watch it, because Porky is about to possibly break all records and get 0.
Pathetic questions.
How many medals did Cuba win in the 2016 Olympics?
2016?
Yes.
Well, look, hang on. Listen, their greatest Olympic exponent was Teofilio, their boxer.
Who?
Their boxer. He won 3 gold medals in 72, 76 and 80.
Was he in the 2016 Olympics?
So why haven't you asked me about him?
Well, was he in the 2016 Olympics?
Why haven't you asked me about him?
Well, it's not written down here.
Why haven't you asked me about Juan Torina, who won 2 Olympic golds in 76 in Montreal, 400 and 800 metres.
Yeah.
So I know about the heavyweight boxing champions. I know
Didn't you think to look and see how many they won in last year?
But it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
Why?
Because they're not a major power. They didn't win anything gold.
They didn't win anything gold?
No.
Is that your answer?
What?
Is that your answer?
You haven't asked me that. You've asked me how many medals they won.
How many medals did they win?
Medals.
Medals in total, yes.
Gold, bronze and silver.
Exactly right.
They won 2.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Incorrect.
No!
Ha venido a crear un problema.
How many they won?
They won 11. They won 5 golds, 2 silver and 4 bronze. So I'm sorry to say, Porky, that you have surpassed yourself here with 0 out of 10.
Well, the audience can tell the poverty nature of the questions. They're ridiculous.
They were very good
You didn't
questions.
ask me about the Bay of Pigs.
I did.
You did
I asked
not.
you who the CIA director was.
That irrelevant.
Oh, he was only the guy in charge.
You didn't ask me about the Cuban Missile Crisis, Khrushchev.
Khrushchev's not about Cuba, is it? It's about Russia.
And he was sending missiles to Cuba.
Yeah.
You didn't ask me about, all the things that have happened. You didn't ask me about Fidel Castro. You didn't ask me about Che Guevara. What about...
He's not from Cuba.
Che Guevara was the most famous Cuban exile.
He wasn't Cuban.
It doesn't matter. He conquered Cuba with Fidel Castro.
But he wasn't a Cuban.
Why didn't you ask me a journalistic question like who took the famous picture of Che Guevara?
What do you mean?
Albert Korma, the famous photographer, took that picture.
Well,
I know so much about Cuba. He didn't ask me anything I know about.
You don't even know how far it is from Miami.
I knew exactly how it was. Oh, far. It's 97 miles.
No, it's not. Incorrect.
Rubbish question.
Anyway, 0 out of 10. It's been on Facebook Live. It will remain on Facebook Live.
Our followers will be my judge. Our followers will be my saviour.
Yes, we shall see. That was the Porky Quiz. 9 out of 10.
Canto de la información.
Loca Calite Coco. Loca Calite Coco. Loca Calite Coco. Loca Calite Coco, if it's called.
That's Ricky Martin. I don't think he's Cuban either, though, mind you.
What?
I don't think he's Cuban either.
Yeah, I think he was.
Now, some amazing comments. We've got 300 and odd comments here, which I'm going to try and get through because we can't read them actually while the quiz is on.
Yes.
Unfortunately. And we have to go back all the way through. I could just go. Gerrymandering, says Michael.
Exactly.
MG is devious, putting poor Porky off, says David.
Yeah.
Suzanne Vega, says Stephen. Johnny says, oh my days.
Yeah.
Richard says, stop looking at the camera. What we don't realise is the camera is in a direction which is also where the direction of the producer is.
That's right.
And so I'm looking behind there as well because every time he gets a yes or no answer, there has to be a song which or a stab which is played out.
Yeah.
Problem is no horizontal refreshment question, says Kerry.
Yeah.
Doing good, Porky, says Nicholas.
Yeah.
Keep your head up, Porky.
Well, that's right.
Mal says, what a plank. You might as well just put a tree in his seat.
Oh, yeah? Really?
That's good.
Really?
MG looking smart tonight, says Leon. Love the Ray-Bans.
Yeah, what does Adam say here? What ridiculous, pathetic, unrelated questions from Loafface, that's you, by the way, on the Porky Quiz.
How can they be considered ridiculous
Mark
questions?
says, disgraceful questions on Cuba, Porky, total stitch-up, absolute scandal. I mean, these are the sort of responses we're getting now. You have been found out good and proper.
There's also one here from Simon. What's Porky looking at, MG? That's an interesting question.
No.
Porky cheating again, says Imran.
Yeah.
Come on, Bill Oddie, says Tim.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stephen says it doesn't matter what he's looking at, he's still rubbish. And 0 out of 10 coming up, says Richie. That was a good prediction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Graham says, you're rubbish, Porky.
Yeah. I'm not rubbish.
Well, you got 9 out of 10.
I don't care. The questions were so obtuse. I'm just now, if I sound slightly distracted, I'm reviewing the reams and reams of fantastic responses from our followers, from our listeners, from our millions of those interested, and every one is about how obtuse the questions were.
Not here. Andrew says Bay of Pigs has to be Porky's speciality.
Yeah,
which is quite good.
Oh yeah.
Lloyd says the mood lighting isn't very calming tonight.
Sorry.
The mood lighting. People quite like the way the walls change
Well, I'm not interested
colour.
in the lights. I'm interested in, getting down to the grist of the mill, which is the fact that the questions were so badly composed.
Johnny says, why don't you just say, I don't know, Porky?
Jackie says, just watched... I think Jackie... it's a
Well,
lady.
Jackie.
She's got a picture with you.
Well, that's Jackie from Glasgow.
Oh, Jackie from Glasgow.
You met Jackie from Glasgow?
Yes, I did indeed. Jackie, love to hear from you. Just watched on Facebook Live. Brillo, as MP would say. Yeah, it wasn't Brillo for me. Bear baiting used to be Brillo. It wasn't much fun for the bear.
Well, so now you're going to try and play the victim card, are you?
Difficult questions, MG. Normally I find a reason to defend Porky, but on this occasion I find it impossible.
There
what?
we are. So
what
he's
are you
not
on about?
defending you. Tony says,
used to be a fan of mine, William.
Next quiz should be on the history of German grammar. Open Sexen.
Open Sexen. Benten over. I predicted 1, Porky, and that was still generous. In the end, 0. Nil. Square root
Sam
object.
says, how the hell is a Mexican song sung by a German Ugandan with Italian heritage anything to do with Cuba? Well, the song was written in Cuba. It's a Cuban song, Sam.
Oh, yeah,
thanks
sure.
for trying to outsmart us.
Yeah.
James says, Porky's the most stupid guy on radio. That's a bit harsh.
Yeah, it's very harsh indeed. Yeah, I'm not taking that.
No. But
no.
I mean, I think
I won't take that sort of abuse.
I think, to be honest,
I think the whole future of the quiz is now in question.
I don't think it is,
because the questions are so ridiculous.
This is the most popular television event that is going on right now.
Yeah, but
there are more people looking at this around the world than there are looking at anything else.
I am not any longer going to be subjected to this sort of absolutely disgraceful pre-planning between you and the quizmasters.
It's not pre-planning.
To try and...
You pick the subject, right?
To try and get a few extra, pluses on your side by trying to make me look foolish.
Well, I'll tell you
because the questions are so ridiculous.
Well, I'll tell you what, right? Here's an idea.
Questions are ridiculous.
Here's an idea for next week, okay? Why don't you give me the subjects that you want each question to be on and be as specific as you want? For example, you could have said, I would like question 1 to be on the history of Cuba.
Yeah.
Question 2...
1492, discovered by Christopher Columbus.
Yeah,
okay?
but you can't ask
me... You didn't ask me that.
Well, no, I didn't. I don't set the questions. But if you want to be more specific...
The Bay of Pigs, how many Cuban exiles? 1,400. You never asked me that.
Well, if you knew about the Bay of Pigs, you surely should have known the name of the CIA director who ordered the invasion.
That's a rubbish, because it was done by the President, John F. Kennedy, and his brother Robert.
No, incorrect. It was done by the CIA director.
If you asked me about Che Guevara, how old was he when he died? 39. He was a doctor from Argentina.
No, he's not Cuban.
Who engineered the Cuban Revolution with Fidel Castro. You know as well as I do he did.
But he's not Cuban.
And died in Bolivia. Well, the film with Jack Nicholson was not Cuban, but you still managed to elicit a question out of it, you idiot.
It was about Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, you don't think anything to do with Che Guevara is Cuban?
I'd say he's not Cuban.
You idiot. He's an inherent part of the Cuban
of
the history of Cuba.
So worked up at
because you're talking nonsense. That's why you're talking absolute.
Have you not seen A Few Good Men?
Rubbish. Of course, I've seen A Few Good
shot
Men.
On location in Cuba.
Rubbish.
In Guantanamo Bay, which is part of Cuba.
I'm saying nonsense. Honestly, you insult the intelligence of millions of our listeners. Che Guevara's nothing to do with Cuba.
He's only the most famous. I didn't say he had nothing to do with Cuba. That's not what I said.
He's only the most famous icon of the whole Cuban history.
I don't know what's eating you today.
Well, what's eating me is that you ask me so many stupid questions and I'm getting fed up with it. That's right.
Well, you seem to get
fed
up with
normal questions. We get normal scores.
Well, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. That if you wish to change it, you can make the questions more specific. And you can say, I want the first question to be about Cuban history.
You should have enough common sense and intelligence to make the quiz worth listening to by asking questions that can be answered.
The quiz is very much worth listening to.
You set questions that are impossible to answer.
I don't set the questions.
And therefore, the value of the quiz all round is depreciating.
I don't think
people stop listening to it because the questions are so irrelevant.
No, that's not true. Actually, more and more people are not only listening to the quiz, but they're actually watching it as well.
No, you'll find...
Tom says this, absolutely hilarious. Porky's an outstanding performance. With the camera on you, is it more difficult to cheat, is the question.
No.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Typical of Porky, says John, it's someone else's fault, proving once again that he doesn't know anything.
Yeah, no, I know everything. In fact, I'm actually going to put out a picture of my research notes, as I always do.
And did you have those to hand?
No, I've just produced them now from
Why did you bring them into the studio, though?
Because I like to review them right up to the time that we get on with the quiz, okay?
No, I didn't realise you were able to do that.
Yeah, well, I am able to do that, so I don't look at them during the quiz.
Okay.
Right.
Well, is that what you were looking at when you were looking down?
No, I wasn't looking down at all.
Okay.
I was not looking down at all. I do not cheat. I'm not that sort of person.
No, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, so what would you like the quiz to be on next week, then?
Well, I'll tell you next week, okay? You're not getting any prior notice from me, pal, okay?
I don't know what you're getting so irascible about.
Well, I'm getting irascible because it's become a mockery.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is a mockery.
Ridiculous. The questions are too stupid.
People enjoy the quiz.
To be able to answer.
People enjoy it, and it's one of the things that they look forward to every single week. If you want to get all spoiled rotten about it and say, I don't want to do it anymore, I'm going to take my ball home, then I think you'll find that will be deleterious to the show.
No, I'm sorry.
I think the Porky Quiz is an absolutely vital part of it.
OK, well, I'll tell you this then. One of the reasons you have quizzes on radio is because people who are listening like to be able to challenge themselves as well.
Yes.
And I can tell you now... Not 1% of our millions of listeners who listen to that quiz would have been able to answer one single question like
I bet you they could. I bet they could have
because
answered
the questions were too obtuse.
From Havana to Miami.
If I'd have failed on a Castro question, I failed on a Che Guevara question, a Bay of Pigs question, a Columbus and where did he land question. If I'd have failed on those, then I could be adjudged to be an idiot.
Apparently,
but I failed on questions that were so irrelevant.
I don't think anyone thinks you're an idiot just because you got none out of 10.
Ridiculous.
It's just the fact is you got none out of 10.
No.
It's a difficult quiz. is. It's meant to be difficult. It's not meant to show you up to be an idiot.
Yeah.
I think you should be getting too. I think you're getting too touchy.
No.
Anyway, A Few Good Men is on TV. If anybody wants to watch it.
Oh, I'll give that a good miss then.
It's a great film.
Yeah.
You don't like that film?
No, I didn't.
It's
really.
brilliant.
No, I didn't really.
Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, Jack Nicholson. What more could you want?
I preferred the stage version that my friend Mr. Bill Kenwright put on in
stage version of A Few Good Men
in the West End of Theatre about 5 years ago.
Well, did you go and see that?
Yeah, I did. I went to the first night.
And you don't remember the guy's name?
Well, the guy's name was never came up. I mean, it was irrelevant.
His name didn't come up.
No,
it was the main character in the movie.
Yeah, well, it didn't. I mean,
Actually, it's even more reason you should remember.
I'm sending out a picture here now of my research notes just to prove that, here is proof that my research was very extensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have a look at that and see what we'll give you a bonus point for trying hard. This is Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.
Now, some people like getting lashed. Maybe they
Some people pay good money for it.
Some people pay good money for it. Yeah. But personally, it's not one of my favourite pastimes.
It's not one of mine either. Roses are red, violets are blue. I've just bought some great new lingerie for you.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1 a.m. on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
Ha venido a crear un problema.
You're a